So hey guys, this is your favorite fictional vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was a Keyblade master from before the Keyblade War, Naruto x Aqua x Kairi, Kingdom Hearts. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. Chapter 1. The Ancient Awakening. The twilight sky fractured like stained glass. Cracks of brilliant gold spreading across the perpetual sunset. Citizens of Twilight Town paused mid-step, faces upturned to witness the impossible, reality itself splitting open. The dim, ancient tear hovered above the clock tower, pulsing with chaotic energy that sent waves of disorientation through the normally peaceful town. From within the rift came a single figure, falling. His descent was neither graceful nor controlled. He tumbled through the air, limbs akimbo, trailing wisps of golden light and shadowy smoke. Impact seemed inevitable until, with a sudden jerk of awareness, the man's eyes snapped open, revealing irises of the most startling blue, slitted like a predator's. "Not again," he muttered, voice rough from disuse. His right hand extended outward, fingers splayed as if grasping for something. Golden light coalesced around his palm, materializing into an object that defied conventional description, a massive key-shaped weapon that shimmered between reality and something else. The hilt resembled a stylized fox with 9 flowing tails that formed the weapon's teeth, while a spiral pattern reminiscent of a whirlpool formed the guard. A chain dangled from its end, bearing a miniature pendant shaped like a leaf. With a practiced twist of his wrist, the man hurled the key weapon beneath him. It spun rapidly, creating a platform of light that halted his fall. He landed in a crouch atop the spinning weapon, which hovered 20 feet above the town's central plaza. With a gesture, the key returned to his hand as he dropped the remaining distance, landing. With barely a sound despite the height, the man straightened, revealing a striking figure that seemed both youthful and ancient simultaneously. Sun-kissed skin contrasted with bright blonde hair that fell in untamed spikes around a face marked with 6 whisker-like scars. He wore an unusual combination of armor and clothing, black and orange battle garments beneath fragments of ornate golden armor covering his left shoulder and forearm. A tattered white haori emblazoned with flame patterns hung from his shoulders, its hem dancing in the breeze. Naruto Uzumaki, once 7th Hokage of Konohagakure, now something far more complex, surveyed his surroundings with eyes that had witnessed centuries. "Where am I this time?" he wondered aloud, dismissing his Keyblade with a flick of his wrist. The weapon dissolved into motes of light, though he could summon it again in an instant if needed. The architecture around him was unfamiliar, a quaint town bathed in perpetual sunset, neither day nor night. Definitely not home. His last memory had been of the final battle, of Kagey's descendant tearing open reality itself in a desperate bid for godhood. Naruto had countered with his own desperate gambit, a forbidden space-time technique that should have sealed them both away for eternity. Instead, it seemed he'd been cast adrift through dimensions yet again. A nearby shop window caught his reflection, and Naruto paused. The face looking back at him was unchanged from centuries ago, perpetually youthful, frozen at 25 despite the millennia that had passed since the Keyblade War. His true age remained visible only in his eyes, which carried the weight of countless lifetimes. "Excuse me," came a tentative voice. Naruto turned to see a young boy with brown hair staring at him, wide-eyed and clutching a struggle bat. "That thing you had, was that a Keyblade?" The question sent a jolt through Naruto's system. No one should recognize a Keyblade, not anymore. Not after the cataclysm that had shattered the original world. "What did you say?" Naruto asked, his voice carefully neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his mind. "A Keyblade," the boy repeated, pointing where the weapon had been moments before. "Like what Sora and the others use." Naruto's expression remained impassive, but his mind raced. Sora, others, impossible. The Keyblade wielders had been extinct since the war. Their legacy destroyed along with the world they failed to protect. "Unless, what's your name, kid?" he asked. "Pence," the boy replied. "Are you a friend of Sora's? Or maybe King Mickey?" Before Naruto could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. Shadows pooled unnaturally around the plaza, darkening and bubbling as if the cobblestones themselves were melting. From these puddles of darkness emerged creatures, not quite heartless as Naruto remembered them, but something similar yet fundamentally wrong. These entities had the general shape of shadows, the most bossy. Heartless form, but their bodies pulsed with an energy Naruto recognized instantly. Chakra. Impossible, corrupted chakra that swirled through their forms like poisonous smoke. Their yellow eyes were bisected by vertical pupils, and what appeared to be crude chakra networks glowed beneath their shadowy skin. Run, Naruto commanded, not taking his eyes off the abominations. Now, to his credit, Pence didn't need to be told twice. The boy sprinted away, shouting warnings to the few civilians still in the plaza. The creatures, Naruto mentally dubbed them chakra shadows, focused their attention solely on him. Circling slowly as if assessing a threat. So the worlds are bleeding together, Naruto murmured, falling into a battle stance. That explains a few things. The first chakra shadow lunged, moving faster than any standard Heartless had a right to. Naruto sidestepped, noting how the creature used chakra to enhance its movement, a bastardized version of techniques he'd taught generations of students. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned his Keyblade, Maelstrom Heart, and cleaved through the creature in a single fluid motion. Instead of dissipating immediately, the chakra shadow exploded into a burst of darkness and corrupted chakra that lashed out like tentacles. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise before narrowing in concentration. He channeled light through his Keyblade, creating a barrier that repelled the corrupted energy. They've evolved, he observed grimly. Or been engineered. The remaining shadows attacked as one, displaying rudimentary coordination that normal Heartless lacked. Naruto responded with movements honed through centuries of combat, his Keyblade leaving trails of golden light as it cut through the air. Despite their enhanced abilities, the creatures stood no chance against a master of his caliber. What troubled him wasn't their strength but their very existence. Heartless shouldn't contain chakra, the energy systems were fundamentally incompatible. Someone or something was deliberately merging them, which suggested a level of knowledge that should have been lost to time. As the last shadow dissipated, Naruto sensed a new presence, powerful, controlled, and approaching rapidly. He turned, Keyblade at the ready, to face this potential new threat. She descended from the rooftops in a graceful arc, her own Keyblade, sleek and elegant paired to his more primal design, held in a reverse grip. Blue hair framed a face of striking beauty, serious yet compassionate. Her clothing seemed to combine functionality with dignity, a high-collared halter top, corset, shorts, and armored segments that protected vital areas without restricting movement. Their eyes met, his ancient blue against her resolute azure, and mutual recognition flickered between them. Though they had never met, both recognized the stance, the poise, the unmistakable aura of a true Keyblade master. Impossible, she whispered, her Keyblade, Stormfall, still pointed toward him. The records said all masters from before the war were lost. Naruto didn't lower Maelstrom Heart, but his posture relaxed slightly. And yet here I stand. Though I could say the same about you. The Keyblade tradition was supposed to have died with us. The woman studied him with the calculated assessment of a seasoned warrior. My name is Master Aqua, Keeper of the Land of Departure and Guardian of the Realm of Light. Titles. Formal ones, at that. This woman, Aqua, followed traditions Naruto recognized from his earliest training. A small smile tugged at his lips despite the tension. Naruto Uzumaki, he replied, intentionally omitting his full title. Former Hokage of the Hidden Leaf, Master of the Maelstrom Keyblade, survivor of the First Keyblade War. Aqua's eyes widened at his last claim, her Keyblade lowering a fraction of an inch. The First War. That's impossible. Naruto finished for her, finally lowering his weapon completely. I've found that word rarely apt. Lies when it comes to Keyblades and hearts. Before Aqua could respond, more shadows pooled around them, larger this time. The chakra shadows that emerged were more developed, some bearing crude symbols on their chests that Naruto recognized with growing concern, corrupted versions of village insignias from his world. We can discuss history later, Aqua said, raising Stormfall once more. These creatures have been appearing across worlds for the past week. They're unlike any Heartless I've encountered. Naruto nodded, settling into a fighting stance beside her. They're infused with chakra, life energy from my world. Someone's merging power systems that should remain separate. Is that even possible? Aqua asked, casting a barrier spell as 3 shadows lunged toward them. Naruto leapt over her barrier. Maelstrom Heart trailing golden light as he cut through the attackers. Not without catastrophic consequences. The last time someone tried to merge the powers of separate worlds, it triggered the Keyblade War. They fought together with the seamless coordination that only comes from mastery of similar disciplines. Where Aqua was graceful and precise, favoring magical attacks and elegant combinations, Naruto was unpredictable and overwhelming, his style a fusion of ninja techniques and Keyblade arts that hadn't been seen for millennia. Blizzaga, Aqua called, freezing AC. Luster of shadows before shattering them with a precise strike. Naruto, meanwhile, created a clone of himself without any verbal command, a technique Aqua had never witnessed. The duplicate charged forward, its own Keyblade materializing as it engaged another group of enemies. The original Naruto placed his hand on the ground, and glowing golden chains erupted from the cobblestones, ensnaring several shadows at once. Light binding chains, he explained, seeing Aqua's surprised expression. A technique combining chakra control with heart energy. I've never seen anything like it, she admitted. Dispatching the bound enemies with a series of elegant strikes. The battle continued for several minutes, with more chakra shadows emerging to replace those defeated. Naruto noticed they seemed particularly drawn to him, as if sensing the ancient power he carried. They're after something specific, Aqua observed, coming to the same conclusion. You, perhaps, Naruto nodded grimly, or what I represent. These creatures shouldn't exist. They're an abomination of both worlds' energies. As the last enemy fell, silence descended upon the plaza. Aqua turned to face Naruto fully, her Keyblade still in hand but lowered to her side. You mentioned the first Keyblade War, she said quietly. Our records barely speak of it, just fragmented legends. Naruto's expression darkened. There's a reason for that. Those who survived did everything possible to erase the truth. Why? To prevent it from happening again, he replied, dismissing Maelstrom Heart. A futile effort, apparently. How many wars have there been since I was sealed away? Just one, Aqua answered. Though we nearly faced another recently. Naruto laughed, but there was no humor in it. One is all it takes. One war nearly destroyed all creation. I should know. I helped cause it. The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Aqua's posture stiffened, her grip on Stormfall tightening instinctively. You were one of the foretellers? She asked, voice carefully controlled. No, Naruto shook his head. But I was there. I fought. I failed. His eyes met hers, centuries of regret visible in their depths. And now something is trying to merge the worlds again, using techniques that should have been forgotten. Aqua considered his words, weighing them against her instincts. Despite his ominous claims, she sensed no darkness in him, only an ancient sorrow and unshakable determination. Master Yen Sid should hear this, she finally said. He's the wisest among us, a retired Keyblade master who guides the current generation. Naruto's eyebrows rose. Yen Sid. That name. It sounds familiar. He maintains a tower between realms, Aqua explained. If anyone would understand the significance of your arrival and these new Heartless, it would be him. Naruto nodded, decision made. Lead the way, Master Aqua. As they departed Twilight Town, neither noticed the cloaked figure watching from the clock tower above. Face hidden beneath a hood decorated with faded red clouds. The nine-tailed fox returns, the figure whispered, voice distorted as if multiple people spoke simultaneously. The vessel awakens. Our salvation approaches. With those cryptic words, the figure stepped backward into a swirling portal of darkness tinged with red chakra, disappearing without a trace. The journey to the mysterious tower revealed much about how the worlds had changed since Naruto's time. Where once there had been a single, unified realm, now countless separate worlds existed. Connected only by secret pathways and special vessels. Aqua's Keyblade glider, a transformed version of Stormfall that resembled a sleek, magical surfboard, carried them through the lanes between. Streams of energy that flowed between worlds like rivers of light. Naruto stood behind her, one hand resting lightly on her shoulder for balance, his haori billowing in the ethereal currents. In my time, we didn't need special pathways, he commented, watching the swirling cosmos around them. The world was whole. It's hard to imagine, Aqua replied over her shoulder. Each world now has its own heart, its own rules and nature. Quote, "The fragmentation was necessary," Naruto said solemnly. "After what we did, what I helped do, the world couldn't survive intact." Aqua wanted to press for details. But something in his tone suggested the wounds remained raw despite the centuries. Instead, she guided the glider toward a distant tower that seemed to exist in a perpetual state of twilight, much like the town they'd departed. "We're approaching Master Yen Sid's tower," she announced. "It exists in a space between worlds." As they drew closer, Naruto felt a familiar resonance. The two were emanated ancient magic similar to what he'd known in his earliest days as a Keyblade apprentice. This place preserved traditions that predated even the war. They landed on a floating island of that supported the improbable structure, a tower of blue stone and golden roofs that defied conventional architecture, with portions that seemed to exist in different dimensions simultaneously. Stars and moons adorned its exterior, some moving in subtle patterns that suggested more than mere decoration. Naruto dismissed his armor fragments with a tap to his shoulder, the golden pieces dissolving into light. He approached the tower cautiously, feeling its magic wash over him like gentle waves. "This place," he murmured, "it remembers." Aqua glanced at him curiously. "What do you mean?" Quote, "The magic here is conscious in its own way," Naruto explained. "It recognizes what I am, what I was." As if confirming his words, the tower's front doors swung open of their own accord, revealing a spiraling staircase within. Aqua noticed the unusual welcome but said nothing, leading the way inside with practiced familiarity. The interior was larger than physics should allow, with staircases that seemed to connect to impossible spaces. Magical artifacts lined the walls, star charts, enchanted objects, and ancient tomes that hummed with power. Naruto recognized some from his original training, remnants of a civilization lost to time. A memory surfaced unbidden, standing in a similar tower, young and eager, as his first master explained the nature of the Keyblade. "The Keyblade is not merely a weapon, Naruto," Master Hagoromo had said, his Rinnegan eyes gleaming with ancient wisdom. "It is a manifestation of your heart's connection to Kingdom Hearts itself, the source of all light and life." Young Naruto, barely 16 and still struggling with the fox spirit sealed within him, had examined his newly manifested Keyblade with wonder. "But why me? I'm just a shinobi from Konoha." Hagoromo's smile had been gentle yet sad. "You are far more than that. The convergence of chakra and heart energy within you is unique, a bridge between worlds that were never meant to intersect." The memory faded as they reached the uppermost chamber. Aqua knocked respectfully before entering a circular room dominated by a massive desk. Behind it sat an elderly man with a long gray beard. Dressed in blue robes and appointed sorcerers had decorated with stars. His piercing eyes held wisdom that approached Naruto's own in depth, if not in years. "Master Yen Sid," Aqua said with a respectful bow. "I've brought someone you need to meet." The sorcerer's gaze fixed on Naruto, his expression revealing nothing even as his eyes widened fractionally. He rose from his chair with deliberate slowness. "Impossible," he whispered, the single word carrying weight beyond its syllables. Naruto stepped forward, meeting the sorcerer's gaze without flinching. "I've heard that word several times today. It seems less meaningful each time." Yen Sid circled his desk, approaching Naruto with the caution one might show a legendary beast. "You bear the mark of the ancient masters, those who came before the sundering of worlds." His eyes narrowed. "You should not exist in this time. And yet I do," Naruto replied simply. "Sealed away during the final days of the war, apparently to awaken when the worlds face a similar threat." "Similar to what?" Aqua asked. Naruto's expression darkened. "The merging of powers that should remain separate. In my time, it was the union of light and darkness that shattered reality. Now, it seems someone is attempting to merge chakra, the life energy of my homeworld, with the power of hearts." Yen Sid returned to his chair, fingers steepled before him. Quote, "The creatures you encountered in Twilight Town, these hybrid heartless, have been appearing across multiple worlds. They possess abilities unlike any heartless we've documented. They're using chakra," Naruto confirmed. "Poorly, but effectively enough. Someone with knowledge of both systems is creating them deliberately." "But who would have such knowledge?" Aqua asked. "The worlds have been separated for millennia. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only when Yen Sid spoke again. There is one possibility, the sorcerer said carefully. During our recent conflicts with Xehanort and the organization, barriers between realms were weakened. It's possible that these disturbances allowed contact with worlds previously isolated. Naruto frowned. Xehanort, organization, a Keyblade master who fell to darkness. Aqua explained, pain flashing across her features momentarily. He sought to recreate the Keyblade War to forge the Kai Blade and access Kingdom Hearts. The Kai Blade, Naruto repeated, the ancient term sending shivers down his spine. So some knowledge survived after all. Too much, perhaps, Yen Sid said grimly. Though Xehanort was defeated, his actions created ripples throughout the realms. The boundaries between worlds grow thinner each day. Naruto paced the circular room, his mind racing through possibilities. These hybrid Heartless appeared only recently. Within the past week, Aqua confirmed. They started as simple shadows but have grown more complex. The ones we fought in Twilight Town were the most developed I've seen. They're evolving, Naruto murmured, learning to utilize chakra more effectively with each generation. Yen Sid stroked his beard thoughtfully. If someone is indeed merging these power systems, their goal must be significant. Such knowledge should have been lost with the ancient masters. Not lost, Naruto corrected. Hidden. Those of us who survived made sure of that. He stopped his pacing, turning to face the others. The forbidden techniques were sealed away in places even Keyblade wielders couldn't reach, the spaces between hearts, beyond even Kingdom Hearts itself. Then how would anyone access such knowledge now? Aqua asked. Naruto's expression grew troubled. The only way would be through someone who already possessed it. Someone like me. The implication hung heavy in the air, that Naruto's awakening might be connected to the appearance of the hybrid Heartless. Not as cause, perhaps, but as part of the same design. Before anyone could pursue this troubling thought, a commotion from the stairwell drew their attention. Hurried footsteps approached, accompanied by youthful voices engaged in urgent conversation. The door burst open to reveal two teenagers, a boy with spiky silver hair and aquamarine eyes, and a girl with auburn hair and an expression of determined concern. Both stopped short upon seeing the gathered masters. Riku, Kairi, Aqua greeted with surprise. What brings you here? The silver-haired boy, Riku, spoke first, his voice calm despite his hurried entrance. The islands were attacked by strange Heartless. They moved differently, used abilities we've never seen before. They were looking for something specific, added Kairi, her gaze curious as it fell on Naruto. They kept repeating a word, Jinchuriki, whatever that means. Naruto stiffened visibly, the color draining from his face. That single word connected his past and present with terrifying implications. It means, power of human sacrifice, he translated quietly. It refers to humans who contain tailed beasts, entities of pure chakra with consciousness and will. Like vessels, Riku asked, his own expression darkening at the concept. Similar, Naruto nodded. I was one, the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox, Kurama. His hand unconsciously touched his stomach, where the seal had once been. But that was lifetimes ago. The tailed beasts were released and dispersed after the war. Apparently something believes otherwise, Yen Sid observed. If these Heartless are searching for Jinchuriki, they must sense some remnant of that power within you. Kairi stepped forward, her curiosity overcoming her initial caution. You're from another world, one connected to these new Heartless. Naruto's smile was tinged with sadness. In a manner of speaking. My world existed before the Sundering, before the worlds became separate entities. I am very old, by your reckoning. Riku's eyes narrowed in assessment. A Keyblade wielder from before the war. I thought that was just legend. Many legends contain fragments of truth, Yen Sid interjected. This is Master Naruto Uzumaki, a survivor of what you would call the First Keyblade War. Both teenagers' eyes widened, their gazes reassessing Naruto with newfound awe and caution. Kairi, in particular, seemed drawn to the ancient master, her eyes studying his face with unexpected intensity. You remind me of someone, she said softly, then shook her head as if dismissing the thought. Sorry, that was strange. Naruto's expression softened. Not strange at all. Hearts recognize patterns across time. Perhaps I remind you of someone important to you. Sora, she whispered, pain flashing across her features. He's missing. Missing. Naruto glanced at Aqua questioningly. Sora sacrificed himself to bring Kairi back after Xehanort struck her down. Aqua explained solemnly. We've been searching for him since. He misused the power of waking, Riku added. Traveled somewhere beyond our reach. Naruto considered this information carefully. The power to traverse hearts and awaken those lost to darkness, such abilities often come with steep prices. Can you help find him? Kairi asked suddenly, hope flaring in her eyes. If you're really from before the war, you might know things we don't. Naruto's gaze softened as he regarded the young woman. Her heart radiated a familiar light, pure and potent, similar to the princesses of heart he'd known in his time. But there was something else there too, something that resonated with his own unique energy. Perhaps, he answered cautiously. But my presence here may have triggered events beyond our current understanding. These hybrid heartless are just symptoms of a greater disturbance. Yen Sid nodded gravely. I fear you may be correct, Master Naruto. The worlds are reacting to your awakening, or perhaps whatever force awakened you now pursues its true goal. Then what do we do? Riku asked pragmatically. We investigate, Aqua stated firmly. Master Naruto and I encountered these creatures in Twilight Town. If they're appearing elsewhere, we need to understand what connects these incidents. Destiny Islands and Twilight Town, Yen Sid mused. Two worlds closely connected to the realm of light, yet distinctly different in nature. Naruto closed his eyes, extending his senses beyond the physical. His perception, honed through centuries of meditation and training, reached outward, feeling the subtle currents of energy flowing between worlds. Something disturbed those currents, creating ripples that spread outward from Radiant Garden, he said suddenly, eyes snapping open. There's a concentration of this merged energy there, stronger than what we encountered in Twilight Town. Aqua looked at him with surprise. You can sense that from here. One benefit of being as old as I am, Naruto replied with a ghost of his former grin. You develop sensitivities to disruptions in the natural order. Radiant Garden has Ansem's computer and research facilities, Riku noted. If someone's experimenting with new forms of Heartless, they'd find resources there. Then that's where we start, Aqua decided. Master Naruto and I will investigate Radiant Garden. Riku, Kairi, can you check on the other worlds we know have been affected? Kairi nodded determinedly, while Riku gave a silent affirmative. Naruto, however, focused his attention on Kairi with sudden intensity. You've received Keyblade training, he asked her directly. She blinked in surprise. Some, mostly from Lee and a little from Master Aqua when she has time. I'm still learning. Your heart contains unusual potential, Naruto observed. Similar to what I sense in specialized chakra networks, adaptable and resilient. She is a princess of heart, Yen Sid explained. One of 7 maidens with hearts of pure light. Naruto's eyes widened fractionally. The tradition continues, then. In my time, they were called Maidens of Radiance, 7. Women whose hearts resonated directly with Kingdom Hearts itself. You knew them? Kairi asked with interest. I protected one, Naruto answered, memories flooding back. Hinata Hyuga, a woman whose eyes could see into hearts themselves. She was, he paused, old pain surfacing briefly, very important to me. An awkward silence followed this personal revelation, broken when Yen Sid cleared his throat. The hour grows late, and you all have much to prepare for. I suggest you rest here tonight and begin your investigations in the morning. Aqua nodded in agreement. That's wise. The tower has guest chambers for all of us. As the meeting concluded, the group began to disperse. Naruto lingered behind, his gaze drawn to the large windows overlooking the star-filled sky. Yen Sid approached him quietly, standing beside the ancient master in contemplative silence. You carry a heavy burden, the sorcerer finally observed. Naruto didn't look away from the stars. Knowledge can be the heaviest burden of all. I know how the worlds ended once before, and I fear I may witness it again. The future is never certain, Yen Sid counseled. Even for one who has seen as much as you. Perhaps, Naruto conceded, but patterns repeat across time. The same ambitions, the same mistakes, just with different faces. And sometimes different outcomes, the sorcerer countered. This narration of wielders has overcome challenges that once seemed insurmountable. Naruto finally turned from the window, his ancient eyes meeting Yen Sid's wise gaze. Then I hope they prove stronger than we were. Because if someone is truly merging chakra with heart energy again, he trailed off, the implication clear. We will face whatever comes, Yen Sid assured him. Together, with a respectful nod, Naruto departed, following Aqua's earlier directions to the guest chambers. As he walked the twisting corridors, his mind returned to memories centuries old, of friends long lost, promises unfulfilled. And a war that had destroyed everything he'd once held dear. I won't let it happen again, he whispered to himself, an oath renewed across millennia. Not this time. In the guest chamber assigned to him, Naruto sat cross-legged on the floor rather than using the bed. Meditation had become second nature over the centuries, a way to process his thoughts and maintain the delicate balance of energies within him. The room itself responded to his presence, the magical furnishings adjusting to accommodate his preferences without any conscious command. Starlight streamed through a window that occasionally shifted its view between different constellations, as if the tower itself were curious about which stars the ancient master might recognize. With practiced ease, Naruto entered a meditative trance, his consciousness expanding beyond physical limitations. In this state, he could perceive the subtle connections between hearts and worlds, threads of light and darkness that formed the tapestry of existence. Within his inner landscape, Naruto stood before a massive gate, not the cage that had once imprisoned Kurama, but a memorial to their partnership. The Nine Tails was long gone, having given his final energy to help seal away the cataclysmic powers unleashed during the war. What remained was an echo, a memory preserved within Naruto's immortal heart. I could use your counsel, old friend. Naruto spoke to the empty gate. The worlds are in danger again, and I'm not sure I'm strong enough to save them this time. No answer came, of course. Kurama had passed beyond even Naruto's reach centuries ago. Yet speaking to the memory brought a measure of comfort, a connection to who he had been before the burden of centuries changed him. The meditative landscape shifted, memories surfacing like bubbles in still water. He saw Konohagakure as it had been, vibrant and peaceful under his leadership as Hokage. He saw his friends and family, Hinata's gentle smile, Boruto's determined grin. Himawari's infectious laughter, all dust now, their descendants scattered across shattered worlds they would never recognize. Hokage-sama, the voice, so familiar it physically hurt to hear it, pulled Naruto from his memories. He opened his eyes to find Hinata standing before him, her pale lavender eyes regarding him with the same gentle warmth he remembered. But this wasn't Hinata, not really. You're a memory, he stated flatly, remaining seated. A projection of my subconscious. The apparition smiled sadly. Yes and no, I am what you remember, but also what you need to hear. Naruto sighed, allowing the manifestation to continue. His meditation sometimes produced these interactions, fragments of his past offering guidance when his heart was troubled. Then speak your wisdom, memory, he said wearily. You blame yourself still, the Hinata apparition observed, kneeling gracefully before him. After all this time, you carry the weight of the war as if you alone caused it. I failed to stop it, Naruto countered. I, who was supposed to be the child of prophecy, the one who would bring balance. You were one man against forces beyond any single person's control, she replied gently. Even with all your power, as Hokage, as Jinchuriki, as Keyblade Master, some events were destined to unfold. Naruto's expression hardened. I don't believe in destiny. Not anymore. We make our own paths. Then make yours now, the apparition challenged, her voice gaining an uncharacteristic firmness. These new wielders, they remind you of us, don't they? Of Team 7 in its early days. Of the Konoha 11. Quote, the observation struck closer to home than Naruto wanted to admit. There was something familiar in Riku's determined protection, in Kairi's hopeful resilience, in Aqua's dutiful mastery. They're not ready for what's coming, he whispered. Were we? The Hinata memory asked with a sad smile. Was anyone? Before Naruto could answer, a gentle knock interrupted his meditation. The apparition faded like morning mist as his consciousness returned fully to the physical world. Yes, he called, rising smoothly to his feet. The door opened to reveal Aqua, now dressed in simpler attire, her armored segments removed in favor of comfort. She paused upon seeing him standing in the center of the room rather than using any of the furniture. "I'm sorry to disturb you," she said. "I wanted to check if you had everything you needed." Naruto offered a small smile. "Old habits. I've spent more time meditating on stone floors than sleeping in beds over the centuries." Aqua stepped into the room, her curiosity evident. "It's still difficult to comprehend. Someone who actually lived through the First War. Our records are so fragmented, mostly symbolic references in fairy tales and legends." "Perhaps that's for the best," Naruto replied. "Some knowledge is too dangerous to preserve intact. But if we don't learn from history, we risk repeating it," Aqua countered. Echoing wisdom that transcended worlds. Naruto's expression softened slightly. "True enough. What would you like to know?" Aqua seemed surprised by the offer, considering her questions carefully. "The war itself. What truly caused it? Our records speak of a conflict over light and darkness, but little else." "It wasn't about light and darkness," Naruto began, gesturing for her to sit while he remained standing. "Those were symbols, rallying cries for deeper conflicts. The true catalyst was knowledge, forbidden techniques for manipulating hearts and worlds." He paced slowly as he spoke. Muscle memory from his days as Hokage explaining complex missions to his subordinates. "In my world, we had chakra, energy created by combining physical and spiritual energies. In other realms, power came directly from hearts. The two systems were meant to remain separate, balanced. But someone found a way to combine them." Aqua guessed. "Several someones," Naruto corrected grimly. "Myself included, though not by choice at first. As a Jinchuriki, I was already a living bridge between systems, chakra constructs sealed within a human heart." He paused, memories from millennia ago surfacing with painful clarity. "We thought we were bringing peace, creating a unified power system that would eliminate conflict between realms. Instead, we destabilized the foundations of reality itself. And now it's happening again," Aqua concluded, her expression troubled. "Not exactly the same way," Naruto qualified. "The worlds are already separated, which ironically might prevent total collapse. But these hybrid heartless suggest someone has rediscovered principles that should have remained buried." A comfortable silence fell between them. Two masters from different eras, united by common purpose despite the centuries separating their experiences. Aqua finally broke the quiet with another question. "The Keyblade you wield, Maelstrom Heart, it feels different from others I've encountered. Older, somehow." Naruto held out his hand, summoning the weapon in a flash of golden light. Its unique design, the fox motif, the spiral patterns, the leaf pendant, reflected an identity forged across multiple lifetimes. "It was forged during the height of the age of fairy tales, as your legends might call it," he explained. "When I first manifested a Keyblade, it was simpler, a reflection of my heart as it existed then. Over time, as I changed, so did it." He dismissed the weapon with a flick of his wrist. "Your Stormfall follows similar principles, I imagine. A reflection of who you've become." Aqua nodded, summoning her own Keyblade briefly. "It evolved from Rainfell after my trials in the realm of darkness." She allowed the weapon to vanish. "The darkness changed me, tempered me. Yet you didn't succumb," Naruto observed. "That speaks to remarkable strength of heart." A faint blush colored Aqua's cheeks at the genuine compliment. "I had friends to fight for, people waiting for me to return. Their lights guided me home eventually." Naruto's expression grew distant. "Bonds of connection. They transcend even time, it seems." Another knock at the door interrupted their conversation. This time it was Kairi who entered, her expression apologetic. "Sorry to interrupt," she said quickly. "Master Yen Sid asked me to bring you both. There's been another incident. A world called Halloween Town is reporting hybrid heartless with abilities no one's seen before." Naruto and Aqua exchanged concerned glances before following Kairi back to Yen Sid's chamber. As they walked, Naruto noticed how the young woman kept glancing at him with barely concealed curiosity. "You have questions," he stated rather than asked. Kairi startled slightly before offering a sheepish smile. "Several dozen, actually. It's not every day you meet someone who witnessed the beginning of, well, everything we know." "I wasn't there for the very beginning," Naruto clarified with a small smile. "Just one of its more significant endings." Still, Kairi persisted, You knew the original princesses of heart. The maidens of radiance, you called them. Were they, like me? The question held depths beyond its simple phrasing. A young woman seeking to understand her place in a legacy she hadn't chosen. Similar in some ways, different in others, Naruto answered thoughtfully. They weren't selected by destiny so much as born with hearts that resonated at specific frequencies with Kingdom Hearts itself. Some embraced their role, others resented it. And Hinata, the one you knew personally. Naruto's expression softened at the memory. She was kind beyond measure, brave when it mattered most, and possessed a strength few recognized at first glance. He glanced at Kairi, noting similarities he hadn't initially observed. Not unlike yourself, from what little I've seen. Kairi's eyes widened slightly at the comparison. I'm not sure I deserve that. I've spent most of our adventures being protected or rescued. Power takes many forms, Naruto replied, echoing wisdom Hinata herself had once shared with him. Not all strength manifests as combat prowess or magical might. Before Kairi could respond, they reached Yen Sid's chamber, where Riku and the sorcerer were already deep in discussion. A magical projection hovered above the desk, showing a world Naruto didn't recognize, a Gothic town perpetually shrouded in night, with a curling hill silhouetted against an oversized moon. Ah, you've arrived, Yen Sid acknowledged them. We've received concerning reports from Halloween Town. The hybrid Heartless there have exhibited new abilities, specifically, transformation techniques similar to those used by high-level shinobi. Naruto frowned, approaching the projection. Transformation jutsu requires precise chakra control and knowledge of physical forms. No ordinary Heartless should be capable of such techniques. Yet these are, Riku confirmed grimly. According to Jack Skellington, they're mimicking the residents, creating confusion and chaos. This escalation is troubling, Aqua observed. They're evolving more rapidly than we anticipated. Naruto studied the projection. His tactical mind, honed through decades as Hokage and centuries as a survivor, analyzing the situation. We need to split our efforts, he decided. Radiant Garden remains our primary lead for the source. But we can't ignore these evolutionary developments. I agree, Yen Sid nodded. I propose that Master Aqua and Master Naruto investigate Radiant Garden as planned. While Riku and Kairi assess the situation in Halloween Town, Kairi looked disappointed at the assignment, clearly hoping to learn more from the ancient master. Naruto noticed her expression and made a spontaneous decision. Actually, he interjected, I think Kairi should come with me to Radiant Garden. Her unique connection to that world might prove valuable, and, he hesitated briefly. I'd like to assess her potential more directly. If these enemies are targeting princesses of heart as they once did maidens of radiance, she should be prepared. All eyes turned to him in surprise, none more so than Kairi herself. Yen Sid stroked his beard thoughtfully before nodding. Your reasoning is sound. Aqua can accompany Riku to Halloween Town, while you and Kairi investigate Radiant Garden. Are you sure? Aqua asked Naruto quietly. Radiant Garden might be the epicenter of this disturbance. Naruto met her gaze steadily. All the more reason to have a princess of heart present. Whatever force is merging these energy systems, it will likely react distinctively to her presence. What he didn't voice was his growing suspicion that Kairi herself might be more connected to these events than anyone realized. Something about her heart's energy signature seemed distantly familiar, a resonance pattern he hadn't encountered since before the war. As the meeting concluded with plans to depart at dawn, Naruto found himself facing a path hauntingly similar to one he'd walked millennia ago, a journey toward conflict that threatened the very fabric of reality. Only this time, he carried the wisdom of previous failure and the determination to ensure a different outcome. For the first time since awakening in this fractured future, Naruto felt the stirrings of his old self, the unwavering will that had defined him as both Hokage and Keyblade Master. Whatever force had awakened him, whatever enemy sought to repeat ancient mistakes, they would find him ready. The worlds had already survived one cataclysm of his making. He would ensure they survived this one as well, no matter the personal cost. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Convergence of Fates. Dawn arrived at the mysterious tower with an atmospheric ambiguity unique to this realm, neither fully day nor completely night, but a perpetual state of cosmic twilight. Naruto stood atop the highest battlement, his silhouette sharp against the star-speckled sky. He'd abandoned sleep after only a few hours, preferring the company of the endless cosmos to the haunting memories that visited him in dreams. The universe looked different now, fragmented where it had once been whole, separated into distinct worlds rather than the unified reality he'd known before the war. Couldn't sleep either. Naruto didn't turn at Kairi's voice, having sensed her approach minutes before she spoke. Her footsteps were lighter than Aqua's measured stride, her presence radiating a distinctive warmth that reminded him of another princess from long ago. "Sleep is more habit than necessity for me these days," he replied, finally glancing her way. She had dressed for their journey, practical attire that balanced mobility with protection, nothing as formal as Aqua's battle gear. "My body requires little rest after everything." Kairi joined him at the battlement's edge, her auburn hair catching starlight as she gazed outward. What was it like before the worlds were separated? The question carried innocent curiosity, yet touched depths of memory Naruto rarely explored willingly. Still, something about her sincere interest loosened his typical reserve. "Connected," he answered after a thoughtful pause. "Imagine standing in a forest where each tree remains distinct yet shares the same soil, the same air, the same essence." His hand reached outward, fingers splayed as if trying to grasp something just beyond reach. You could walk from one realm to another without barriers or pathways, feeling the gradual shift in the world's nature rather than the abrupt transitions you experience now. "That sounds beautiful," Kairi murmured. It was, Naruto confirmed, ancient sorrow coloring his voice. Beautiful and dangerous. When conflict arose in one realm, it spread to others like wildfire. When power was abused in one corner of existence, the consequences echoed everywhere. Is that why the worlds were separated? For protection? Naruto's eyes reflected starlight, ancient and knowing. Separation wasn't a choice but a consequence. When the Keyblade shattered during the war, Kingdom Hearts itself was wounded. The world fractured along lines of affinity, similar hearts gathering together, forming the distinct realms you know today. Kairi absorbed this information with thoughtful silence before asking, "And your world?" "The one with chakra, sealed away more thoroughly than most," Naruto explained, his gaze distant. "The elemental nations were ground zero for the war's worst battles. The Sage of Six Paths, my mentor Hagoromo, used the last of his power to reinforce the barriers around our realm, ensuring the devastation couldn't spread further. But you escaped somehow." "Not escaped," he corrected gently. "I was fighting our final enemy, a being who sought to harness both chakra and heart energy to remake reality. Our battle tore open the dimensional fabric itself. I used a forbidden G technique to contain us both in a pocket dimension outside time." His hand unconsciously touched his abdomen, where the Nine-Tails seal had once been. "I expected eternal imprisonment. Instead, I awoke in Twilight Town yesterday, as if no time had passed for me while centuries flowed for everyone else." Kairi studied his face with unexpected intensity, seeing beyond the youthful appearance to the ancient soul within. "That's incredibly lonely." The simple observation struck deeper than any question about power or history could have. Naruto's carefully maintained composure cracked momentarily, revealing genuine surprise at her empathy. "I hadn't thought of it that way," he admitted quietly. "But yes, waking to find everyone you've ever known turned to dust ages ago, lonely, barely begins to describe it." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only when the tower's magical bells chimed softly, signaling the hour of departure. Naruto straightened, his momentary vulnerability replaced by purposeful focus. "We should prepare to leave," he stated, already moving toward the tower entrance. "Radiant Garden awaits. Unlike Aqua with her Keyblade glider, Naruto possessed different methods of interdimensional travel. On the tower's grounds, he instructed Kairi to stand close as he removed a special kunai from a hidden pocket, three-pronged with complex seal formulas inscribed along its handle. "The Flying Thunder God technique," he explained, noting her curious expression. "Originally created by the fourth Hokage, my father, and later adapted by me to Traver. Say not just physical space but the pathways between worlds. You can teleport between worlds?" Kairi asked, impressed. "Without a gummy ship or corridors of darkness?" "In a manner of speaking." "Nah." Naruto twirled the kunai expertly before grasping it firmly. though it requires anchor points, places of marked with my chakra signature. Fortunately, during my time before the war, I visited many realms that exist in some form today. Including Radiant Garden. We called it the City of Dawn then, Naruto nodded. It housed one of the primary Keyblade academies, a sister institution to Scala ad Kylum. I spent several years studying there. He held out his free hand to Kairi. This will feel unusual. Many find the first experience disorienting. Kairi took his offered hand without hesitation. Her trust unexpected but welcomed. Naruto noted how naturally their hands fit together despite the centuries and worlds separating their origins. Focus on your breathing, he instructed. And whatever happens, don't let go. With practiced precision, Naruto channeled chakra into the kunai while simultaneously drawing upon the power of his Keyblade, not physically manifesting it but accessing its connection to the pathways between worlds. Golden light surrounded them both, forming intricate patterns that resembled both chakra seals and the symbolic language of Keyblades. Reality comp. Rest around them, not dark corridors like those used by wielders of darkness, but a tunnel of golden light streaked with blue chakra. Naruto felt Kairi's grip tighten as the sensation of movement without motion overcame them. Unlike conventional teleportation, the Flying Thunder God technique allowed brief awareness of the spaces between destinations, a dangerous but useful property when navigating between worlds. As they traveled, Naruto perceived something unusual, ripples in the interdimensional fabric, disturbances in patterns that should have remained stable for millennia. Something was east-magically weakening the barriers between worlds, creating channels where none should exist. The journey lasted only seconds before reality reasserted itself. They materialized in a quiet courtyard. Surrounded by elegant architecture, flowing fountains, geometric gardens, and buildings that combined technological advancement with classical aesthetics. Radiant Garden, true to its name, gleamed in morning sunlight. Its restored beauty a testament to the resilience of its people after years of darkness. Kairi staggered slightly upon arrival, and Naruto steadied her with a supportive hand. The disorientation passes quickly, he assured her. Take a moment. That was. She searched for words while regaining her balance, like being everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. An apt description, Naruto acknowledged. The Flying Thunder God allows brief perception of the dimensional boundaries most travelers never notice. As Kairi recovered, Naruto surveyed their surroundings with tactical precision. They had arrived in one of the outer gardens, away from the central plaza where they might have drawn immediate attention. The ancient chakra marker he'd followed, placed centuries ago during his studies, had weakened but remained functional, a testament to his former mastery. This place has changed, he observed, noting the blend of traditional architecture with technological elements that hadn't existed in his time. Yet its essence remains familiar. It's still being restored, Kairi explained, now steady on her feet. After Maleficent and the Heartless invasion, much was destroyed. The Restoration Committee has been rebuilding for years. Naruto nodded, absorbing this information while extending his senses outward. As in Twilight Town, he could perceive the subtle flow of energies that most couldn't detect, and immediately noticed anomalies. There, he murmured, orienting toward the castle that dominated the city's skyline. Multiple disturbances emanating from the castle complex. Chakra signatures intermingling with darkness in patterns that shouldn't be possible. Kairi followed his gaze. Ansem's study and the computer systems are housed there. If someone's experimenting with these hybrid Heartless, that would be the place. Then that's our destination, Naruto decided. Though not directly, I prefer to understand the situation fully before confronting it. They began walking through the gardens toward the town proper, maintaining conversation while Naruto continuously scanned their surroundings. You mentioned you studied here, Kairi prompted, genuinely curious. What was it like then? The City of Dawn was a center of knowledge, Naruto recalled, memories surfacing of a time before war darkened everything. Keyblade wielders from across the United World gathered to study the theoretical aspects of heart connections and world boundaries. Unlike Scala ad Kylum, which focused on combat techniques and light magic, this academy specialized in understanding the fundamental principles underlying reality itself. That explains why Ansem the Wise established his research here, Kairi observed. The world retained its purpose even after separation. Worlds remember, Naruto affirmed. Even when physically transformed, they maintain echoes of their original nature. As they entered the town's central district, citizens went about their daily lives, shopping, conversing, working on restoration projects. None paid particular attention to Naruto and Kairi, assuming them to be visiting allies like the many who came to assist with rebuilding efforts. You seem comfortable here, Naruto observed as Kairi greeted several townspeople by name. This was my first home, she explained with a bittersweet smile. Before I came to Destiny Islands. I don't remember much from my childhood here, but the connection remains. This information intrigued Naruto. Your heart recognizes this world, even if your conscious mind doesn't remember it fully. That's significant. Quote, before Kairi could inquire about this observation, a familiar voice called out to them. Kairi, didn't expect to see you here today. Approaching from a side street was a young woman with short black hair and an energetic demeanor. She wore ninja-inspired attire that immediately caught Naruto's attention, not for its stylistic elements but for subtle daisy GN aspects that eerily echoed shinobi functional patterns from his world. Yuffie, Kairi greeted warmly. Perfect timing. We're here investigating those strange new Heartless. The ninja girl's expression turned serious as she noticed Naruto. Another Keyblade wielder. You guys are really taking this seriously, huh? This is Master Naruto, Kairi introduced. He has specialized knowledge that might help. Naruto studied the young woman with carefully concealed interest. Her fighting stance, the way she carried her oversized shuriken, even her breathing pattern, all reflected training reminiscent of his world's shinobi traditions, albeit adapted and evolved over centuries. You're trained in ninjutsu, he observed, the statement causing Yuffie's eyes to widen in surprise. Well, yeah, she confirmed, clearly impressed by his assessment. What ninja traditions? How do you know just by looking? I recognize the patterns, Naruto replied simply, not elaborating on his ancient connection to the original ninja traditions. Your techniques would be effective against standard Heartless, but these new hybrids require different approaches. Yuffie frowned. Tell me about it. My usual tactics barely slow them down. And they use weird techniques I've never seen before, making copies of themselves, transforming, even substituting with objects when attacked. Naruto exchanged a meaningful glance with Kairi. These were basic shinobi techniques. Clone jutsu, transformation jutsu, and substitution jutsu, the fundamental skills taught to academy students in Konoha. Where were these Heartless last sighted? He asked. The castle postern. Earlier this morning, Yuffie replied. Leon and Cloud are investigating now. I was just heading back to headquarters to report. We'll come with you, Kairi decided. The restoration committee might have information we need. As they followed Yuffie through the winding streets, Naruto continued his subtle observation of the ninja girl. Noting how certain movements and techniques had survived the world's sundering while others had been lost or transformed. It provided valuable insight into how knowledge transferred across dimensio. Null boundaries, something that might explain how chakra techniques had found their way into Heartless behavior. The Restoration Committee headquarters occupied a modest building near the borough's center, functional rather than impressive. With various technological equipment sharing space with maps and planning documents. Inside, they found two men engaged in serious conversation, one with a distant seative scar across his face and a gunblade leaning against his chair, the other with spiky blonde hair and a massive sword strapped to his back. Leon, Cloud, Yuffie announced their arrival. Look I found Kairi and another Keyblade wielder. Both men turned, assessing Naruto with experienced warrior's eyes, noting his stance, the confidence in his bearing, and the subtle signs of power he couldn't entirely conceal. You picked a complicated time to visit, Leon commented, addressing Kairi. These new Heartless are unlike anything we've encountered. That's why we're here, Kairi explained. Master Naruto has knowledge about the techniques they're using. All attention turned to Naruto, who stepped forward with the natural authority of someone accustomed to leadership. The abilities these Heartless display come from my world. Techniques called jutsu that manipulate chakra, a form of energy combining physical and spiritual power. Chakra, Cloud repeated, the unfamiliar term drawing his interest. Is that why our conventional attacks seem less effective? Precisely, Naruto confirmed. These creatures are hybrids, heartless infused with chakra networks that allow them to utilize ninja techniques. Standard combat approaches won't be sufficient. Leon's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. And you know how to counter these techniques? I should hope so, Naruto replied with the ghost of a smile. I helped create many of them. This statement drew surprised looks from everyone except Kairi, who had already pieced together aspects of Naruto's complex history. Before further questions could arise, a computer terminal against the wall emitted an urgent alert, drawing Leon's immediate attention. Security breach at the castle, he reported grimly. Multiple signatures detected in Ansem's study and the computer room. Naruto stepped to the monitor, studying the energy readings displayed. His eyes narrowed as he recognized patterns no one else in the room could interpret. Chakra signatures with distinctive elemental affinities, moving with purpose rather than the chaotic patterns typical of Heartless. These aren't random occurrences, he stated with certainty. Quote, these movements show tactical coordination, search patterns executed by specialized units with different capabilities. You can tell all that from energy readings? Cloud asked skeptically. I can, Naruto confirmed without elaboration. And we need to move quickly. They're accessing systems in a systematic pattern, searching for specific data. What kind of data? Leon pressed. Naruto's expression darkened. If I'm right, information about the boundaries between worlds, specifically, how to weaken or remove them entirely. This assessment galvanized the group into immediate action. Leon quickly outlined the castle's layout for Naruto while Cloud gathered additional weapons. Yuffie collected communication devices, handing one each to Naruto and Kairi. We'll approach from multiple angles, Leon decided. Cloud and Yuffie through the waterways, Kairi and Master Naruto through the postern entrance. I'll coordinate with Sid and Aerith to lock down the computer systems remotely. As they prepared to depart, Naruto placed a hand on Kairi's shoulder. Stay close to me, he instructed quietly. These enemies may target you specifically once they sense your heart's unique signature. Kairi met his gaze with determination rather than fear. I can fight too. I'm not just going to hide behind you. Naruto's expression softened unexpectedly. I never suggested you would. But there's more happening here than a simple heartless incursion, and your safety is paramount, not because you're weak, but because you're valuable. Something in his tone, respect mingled with protective concern, quieted any further objection. Kairi nodded her understanding as they moved out, following Leon's directions toward the castle postern. The approach to Ansem's castle revealed immediate signs of disturbance. Gardens once meticulously maintained now showed evidence of battle, scorched earth, sliced hedges, and impact craters that Naruto recognized as signatures of specific jutsu. Most telephone-ling were the chakra residues lingering in the air, visible only to his experienced senses but unmistakable in their implications. Fire release techniques, he murmured, examining a blackened section of wall. And earth-style defenses counteracting water attacks. Coordinated elemental combat. Kairi observed his assessment with growing concern. These don't sound like mindless heartless. They're not, Naruto confirmed grimly. These are organized units using advanced chakra techniques, far beyond what Yuffie described earlier. They proceeded cautiously through the postern entrance, encountering surprisingly little resistance. The lack of enemies heightened Naruto's suspicion rather than easing it. A clear corridor often indicated an ambush ahead or, worse, that they were already too late to prevent whatever the intruders planned. The castle interior reflected its dual nature. Classical architecture intersected with technological installations, creating an environment where ancient wisdom and modern science coexisted. Naruto noted how similar this fusion was to the chakra heartless themselves, different systems forced to integrate, creating something neither fully one nor the other. As they approached the study area, Naruto suddenly halted, raising a hand to signal Kairi to stop. His enhanced senses detected movement ahead, multiple signatures converging on their position from different directions. We're surrounded, he stated calmly, summoning Maelstrom Heart in a flash of golden light. They've been waiting for us. Kairi drew her own Keyblade, Destiny's Embrace, its flowery design belying its effectiveness. How many? At least 12 distinct signatures, Naruto replied, analyzing the approaching threats. Different chakra affinities suggesting specialized abilities. They're moving in standard shinobi formation, a tactic my village developed centuries ago. The first attackers appeared simultaneously from multiple directions, humanoid heartless with distant, sensitive chakra networks visible beneath their shadowy forms. Unlike the basic shadows they'd encountered previously, these resembled neo-shadows with added features reminiscent of shinobi, headbands bearing scratched insignias, flak jackets, and weapon pouches containing shadowy kunai and shuriken. Shinobi heartless, Naruto named them instantly. Mid-level threats individually, dangerous in coordinated groups. The creatures attacked with unexpected discipline, working in pairs using complementary techniques. Two launched fire-based jutsu while others provided covering attacks with thrown weapons. Rather than the mindless aggression typical of Heartless, these displayed tactical intelligence, targeting Kairi specifically after noting her less experienced stance. Naruto moved with blinding speed, his Keyblade intercepting a barrage of shadow shuriken aimed at Kairi. With his free hand, he formed a sequence of signs too rapid for normal eyes to follow. Wind style. Gale palm. A Konsen. Traded burst of wind chakra erupted from his palm, catching the fire jutsu and redirecting it back toward its casters. The shinobi Heartless scattered, clearly surprised by the counter. They didn't expect another chakra user. Naruto observed, already moving to engage the next group. Use light-based attacks. They're still heartless at their core. Kairi nodded, channeling light through Destiny's embrace. Pearl, she called, sending orbs of radiant energy toward the nearest attackers. The spell proved effective, burning through the creatures' shadowy forms despite their chakra enhancements. Naruto fought with efficiency rather than flashiness, each movement purposeful and economical. His combat style revealed centuries of refinement, the raw power and enthusiasm of his youth tempered by experience into something precisely controlled. He switched seamlessly between Keyblade techniques and ninja arts, creating combinations the Heartless couldn't anticipate. Despite their coordinated attacks, the shinobi Heartless fell quickly to the combined assault. As the last one dissipated, Naruto immediately turned his attention to Kairi, assessing her condition with a critical eye. You fought well, he acknowledged, genuine approval in his tone. Your light magic is particularly effective against these hybrids. Kairi caught her breath, pleased by the recognition from the ancient master. They were targeting me specifically, weren't they? Yes, Naruto confirmed. They recognized your heart's signature, similar to how they would have hunted maidens of radiance in my time. Before they could discuss this further, their communication devices activated with Leon's voice. Kairi, Naruto, we've got a situation in the computer room. Cloud and Yuffie encountered resistance but made it through. Someone's accessing the DTD database. We're on our way, Kairi responded, already moving toward the indicated location with Naruto close behind. The corridors leading to the computer room showed increasing signs of conflict, damaged walls, scattered research materials, and the distinctive residue of both darkness and chakra. When they finally reached the massive computer chamber, He found Cloud and Yuffie engaged with more specialized Heartless while a hooded figure worked at the main terminal. The figure's attire sent a jolt of recognition through Naruto, a black coat with red cloud patterns along its hem, combining elements from Organization XII's uniform with the distinctive markings of Akatsuki. The symbolic merger was too specific to be coincidental. Get away from the terminal, Cloud commanded, his massive sword cleaving through a Heartless only to have it substitute with a nearby object, the classic Kawarimi technique. The hooded figure didn't acknowledge the battle raging behind them, fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard as streams of data flowed across multiple screens. Even from a distance, Naruto recognized what they accessed: dimensional coordinates, world boundary data, and theoretical models for interdimensional transit. Stop them, Naruto instructed Kairi, already forming hand signs for a more complex jutsu. I'll handle the Heartless. Without waiting for acknowledgement, Naruto slammed his palm against the floor. Sealing art. Chakra suppression field. Golden energy erupted from the point of contact, spreading outward in intric 8 patterns that resembled both Fuinjutsu formulas and Keyblade sigils. As the energy washed over the shinobi Heartless, their movements stuttered and slowed, chakra networks visibly disrupting under the influence of the ancient technique. Now, Naruto called to Cloud and Yuffie. Their chakra is temporarily disabled. The pair needed no further instruction. immediately pressing their advantage against the weakened enemies. Yuffie's shuriken cut through multiple targets while Cloud's sword eliminated others with powerful sweeps. Meanwhile, Kairi approached the terminal, Keyblade raised defensively. "Step away from the computer," she commanded, her voice steadier than she felt inside. The hooded figure paused, head tilting slightly to acknowledge her presence without turning fully. When they spoke, their voice emerged as an unnatural chorus, multiple tones layered atop one another, creating an effect both haunting and disturbing. "Princess of Heart," they intoned, the title carrying ancient significance. "Your presence was anticipated, though not so soon." Kairi maintained her stance, Keyblade unwavering despite the eerie voice. "Who are you? What are you doing with Ansem's data?" "Reclaiming knowledge that was hidden from us," the figure replied enigmatically. "Reconnecting what was sundered, fulfilling the purpose that was interrupted." Before Kairi could respond, the figure moved with unexpected speed, their hand striking the terminal's central panel. Data streams accelerated to a blur as multiple systems activated simultaneously. "Download complete," announced the computer's automated voice. "Dimensional coordinate data transferred." "No," Yuffie cried, launching her shuriken toward the figure only to have it pass through an afterimage as they executed a body flicker technique. The figure reappeared near the chamber's exit, finally turning to face them fully. Though the hood concealed most of their features, Naruto caught a glimpse of eyes that chilly. His blood, Rinnegan-patterned irises overlaid with the amber glow characteristic of those who'd given themselves to darkness. "The seventh Hokage awakens," the figure addressed Naruto directly. "The circle nears completion. When next we meet, the barriers will already be falling." With those cryptic words, the figure vanished in a swirl of darkness intermingled with red chakra, leaving behind a heavy silence broken only by the computer's continued operations. Naruto approached the terminal, examining the accessed data with growing concern. "They've downloaded information on all known world boundaries and the theoretical frameworks for traversing them without established pathways. Can they use that to break down the barriers between worlds?" Cloud asked, rejoining them after dispatching the last Heartless. "Not directly," Naruto replied, scanning through the remaining data. "But combined with chakra techniques designed to manipulate dimensional fabric." He left the implication hanging ominously. Leon arrived moments later, quickly assessing the situation before focusing on the computer. Sid's initial analysis shows they accessed historical data too, specifically, research notes about the world before it was divided. "Ansem had such information?" Naruto asked sharply. "His predecessor did," Leon explained. "The original Ansem conducted extensive research into world boundaries and theoretical models of pre-sundering reality." Naruto's expression darkened at this revelation. Knowledge he and others had worked to suppress had survived after all, preserved in skull. Early research that couldn't recognize its dangerous potential. "We need to understand what they're planning," Cloud stated pragmatically. "These aren't random attacks anymore." "No," Naruto agreed. "This was a coordinated operation with a specific objective. They've been preparing for this, studying chakra techniques, enhancing Heartless, gathering intelligence on world boundaries." "But to what end?" Yuffie wondered. "Even with all that data, they can't just merge the worlds again, right?" Naruto exchanged a grim look with Kairi before answering. "During the First Keyblade War, that's exactly what certain factions attempted. Forced reunification of realms that had begun naturally drifting apart. The resulting cataclysm shattered reality itself. And you think that's their goal now?" Leon asked incredulously. "To trigger another Keyblade War. Not the war itself," Naruto clarified. "But its outcome, a reset of reality according to their design. The war was merely the catalyst last time. The event that released enough energy to remake the world order." A somber silence followed this assessment, broken when Kairi's communication device activated unexpectedly. Master Yen Sid's voice emerged, tense and urgent. "Kairi, Naruto, return immediately. The tower is under attack by creatures matching your description of Chakra Heartless. Aqua and Riku have been delayed, and our defenses are faltering." Naruto and Kairi exchanged alarmed glances, immediately understanding the implications. If the mysterious tower fell, one of the primary bastions against darkness would be compromised. "We'll come immediately," Kairi responded. "Hold on, Master Yen Sid. I'll create a direct pathway," Naruto stated, already drawing the special kunai from his pouch. Leon, continue investigating what specific data they accessed. We need to know exactly what they're planning. Leon nodded grimly. We'll secure the systems and contact you with anything we discover. Naruto turned to Kairi, extending his hand as he had earlier. This jump will be more difficult. Crossing directly to a world under attack creates additional risks. Kairi took his hand without hesitation, her expression resolute. I'm ready. As Naruto channeled chakra into the kunai, preparing the Flying Thunder God technique, Kairi felt a surprising steadiness in his grip despite the urgency of the situation. His centuries of experience manifested as unshakable calm even in crisis, a quality she found herself admiring more with each passing hour. The familiar golden light surrounded them, reality compressing as they entered the pathways between worlds. This transit felt different. Turbulent currents of energy buffeted them from all sides, the usual smooth journey disrupted by disturbances in the dimensional fabric. The boundaries are weakening, Naruto observed, his voice somehow reaching Kairi despite the impossibility of conventional sound in this between space. The attack on the tower is accelerating the process. Before Kairi could respond, they emerged into chaos. The mysterious tower's courtyard had become a battlefield, with enchanted brooms and furniture, animated by the tower's magic. Fig. HTING alongside Yen sit against waves of advanced chakra heartless. These creatures displayed abilities far beyond those they'd encountered in Radiant Garden, some even manipulating elemental chakra to counter the sorcerer's powerful magic. Naruto released Kairi's hand and immediately summoned Maelstrom Heart, assessing the situation with tactical precision. Get to Yen Sid, he instructed. His magic can enhance your light abilities against these enemies. Kairi nodded, summoning Destiny's Embrace as she moved toward the embattled sorcerer. Naruto, meanwhile, approached the battle from a different angle, analyzing the enemy formations with experienced eyes. These Heartless moved with unprecedented coordination, squads of specialized units supporting each other with complementary abilities. Some launched fire techniques while others provided earth-style defenses. Water and wind users combined their elemental chakra to create enhanced attacks that even Yen Sid's powerful magic struggled to counter. Multi-elemental combination techniques, Naruto observed grimly. Jonin-level tactics. Without further hesitation, he formed a familiar cross-shaped hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Multiple copies of Naruto appeared in puffs of smoke, each summoning their own Maelstrom Heart. The clones immediately engaged different enemy squadrons, demonstrating identical skill levels to the original, a capability far beyond normal duplication techniques. Yen Sid, maintaining a powerful barrier around himself and now Kairi, observed Naruto's abilities with widened eyes. Extraordinary, the sorcerer commented. I have not witnessed such techniques since the age of fairy tales. They're targeting the tower specifically, Kairi noted, reinforcing Yen Sid's barrier with her own light magic. Not just attacking but attempting to penetrate its defenses. Indeed, Yen Sid confirmed grimly. They seek something within, knowledge or artifacts preserved from ancient times. Naruto, Ove, are hearing this exchange while dispatching a squad of water chakra heartless, called out to them. The tower itself holds memories of the original world, architectural echoes preserved through magical continuity. This assessment added urgency to their defense. If the attackers breached the tower's inner chambers, they might access magical knowledge dating back to before the Sundering, information potentially as dangerous as what they'd stolen from Ansem's computer. The battle intensified as more specialized Heartless emerged from corridors of darkness tinged with red chakra. Among them appeared a new variant Naruto immediately recognized with alarm, Heartless bearing crude representations of dojutsu, the specialized eye techniques of his world's most powerful clans. Eye bearers, he warned, directing several clones to intercept these dangerous new enemies. Don't look directly at the ones with spiral patterns in their eyes. Kairi, heeding his warning, focused on supporting Yen Sid's defensive magic rather than engaging directly. The sorcerer himself modified his spells, creating reflective barriers that prevented visual genjutsu from affecting them. Naruto confronted the dojutsu Heartless personally, his experience with such techniques making him the only one capable of countering them effectively. As he engaged the first, a Heartless with Sharingan-like eyes, he noted with Gr. owing concern how accurately it mimicked the original abilities, predicting his movements and copying his basic techniques. "They're not just using chakra anymore," he called to the others. "They're replicating specific bloodline abilities from my world." This development confirmed his worst fears. Whoever controlled these creatures had access to knowledge that should have been lost with the sundering of worlds. Information not just about basic chakra manipulation but about the specialized genetic abilities that had made certain clans in the elemental nations so formidable. Despite this alarming escalation, the defenders gradually gained the upper hand. Naruto's shadow clones systematically eliminated enemy squadrons while Yen Sid and Kairi maintained a defensive perimeter around the tower itself. The sorcerer's magic proved particularly effective when combined with Kairi's natural light abilities, creating combinations that counteracted even the most advanced chakra techniques. As the tide turned decisively in their favor, the remaining Heartless suddenly withdrew, not in defeat but with the same tactical coordination they'd shown throughout the battle. They retreated to a center-al position in the courtyard where a swirling vortex of darkness and chakra materialized. From this portal emerged another hooded figure in the Akatsuki-inspired coat, different from the one they'd encountered in Radiant Garden but emanating similar wrongness, a fundamental disruption in the natural order that made even Yen Sid visibly uncomfortable. "Fascinating," the figure spoke, their voice distorted like their counterparts but with different underlying tones. "The seventh Hokage retains his legendary combat prowess despite the centuries. Most impressive." Naruto dismissed his remaining clones, concentrating his full power as he faced this new threat. "You know who I am, but you're hiding behind hoods and borrowed techniques. Show yourself." The figure chuckled, a discordant sound like broken glass grinding together. "All in due time, Lord Seventh. Today was merely a test of capabilities and defenses. The true reunion approaches." "Reunion," Naruto repeated, the term triggering warning bells in his mind. "What are you planning?" Instead of answering directly, the figure raised their hand toward the tower. "The foundations remember, even when minds forget. The pathways exist, even when barriers deny them. The worlds yearn for reunification, even as they fear the consequences." With those cryptic words, the figure made a single hand sign that Naruto recognized with shock. K, an ancient mudra used exclusively by Otsutsuki clan members, those who had first brought chakra to his world. A pulse of energy erupted from the figure, washing over the tower in rippling waves. The structure itself seemed to respond, ancient magic activating as symbols appeared briefly along its walls, glowing sigils that hadn't been visible for millennia. "The resonance is established," the figure announced with satisfaction. "The anchor point secured. Our gratitude for your inadvertent assistance, Master Naruto." Before anyone could react, the figure vanished along with the remaining Heartless, leaving behind an ominous silence and the lingering sensation of fundamental wrongness. Yen Sid approached slowly, his expression graver than Naruto had yet seen. "They used your presence, connection to the ancient world, to activate something within the tower itself." "Not just something," Naruto replied grimly, studying the now invisible sigils with senses that perceived beyond physical reality. "They've established a dimensional anchor point, a fixed reference in space-time that can be used to manipulate world boundaries." "For what purpose?" Kairi asked, joining them with Keyblade still drawn. "To create a tear in reality," Naruto explained. "A controlled fracture rather than the catastrophic shattering that occurred during the war." "Can it be undone?" Yen Sid questioned, already examining the tower with his own magical senses. "Not easily," Naruto admitted. "The anchor uses the tower's inherent connection to the original world, a magical continuity that persisted through the sundering. That's why they needed me here. My presence amplified the resonance, allowing them to establish the connection." Kairi looked between the ancient masters, sensing the depth of their concern. So this was their plan all along. To use Naruto's awakening somehow. "Part of it," Naruto confirmed. "They didn't just happen to find me in Twilight Town, they engineered my emergence from the dimensional pocket where I'd been sealed." This revelation hung heavily in the air, interrupted when a corridor of light appeared nearby. Aqua emerged first, followed by Riku, both showing signs of recent battle. "Master Yen Sid," Aqua called urgently, hurrying toward them. Halloween Town was a diversion. By the time we realized it, Similar attacks were reported across multiple worlds. Coordinated strikes, Riku added grimly. The king sent word from Disney Castle. They repelled an attack targeting the cornerstone of light. Naruto and Yen Sid exchanged concerned glances, the implications clear. The enemy wasn't just targeting random locations but specifically focusing on foundational points, places and artifacts with direct connections to the original world. They're establishing a network, Naruto concluded. Multiple anchor points connected through dimensional pathways. With enough of these in place, they could theoretically create controlled passages between previously separate worlds. Isn't that what the corridors of light and darkness already do? Kairi questioned. Those pathways work within the established world order, Yen Sid explained. They navigate between boundaries rather than weakening the boundaries themselves. Aqua approached Naruto directly, her expression revealing new respect mixed with concern. Master Yen Sid explained more about your origins while we were away. If you truly witnessed the first sundering, then you understand better than any of us what's at stake. I do, Naruto acknowledged solemnly. And what these enemies are. Attempting could be equally catastrophic, though in different ways. Last time, the world shattered chaotically. This time, they seem to be pursuing a controlled merger, equally dangerous but potentially more insidious. Riku, ever practical, focused on immediate concerns. How do we counter these anchor points? With difficulty, Naruto admitted. Each anchor is attuned to specific resonance patterns between worlds, connections that existed before the sundering and persisted in attenuated form afterward. Disrupting them requires understanding the exact nature of each connection. A thoughtful silence followed this assessment. Broken when the tower doors swung open unexpectedly. Everyone turned, keyblades raised defensively, only to lower them in confusion at the figure who emerged. She appeared to be a young woman with short black hair and striking blue eyes, dressed in a simple black coat reminiscent of Organization XII's uniform but lacking the distinctive red clouds of their recent opponents. Her face carried a curious blend of familiar features that caused both Riku and Kairi to freeze in recognition. Xian, Kairi whispered, disbelief evident in her voice. How is this possible? The young woman, Xian, looked equally confused, her gaze moving uncertainly between the gathered wielders before fixing on Naruto with sudden intensity. I don't know why I'm here, she admitted, her voice soft but steady. I remember fading away, becoming part of Sora. Then nothing until I felt a calling. Her eyes remained locked on Naruto. Something pulled me back when you awakened. Something that resonates between us. Naruto studied the young woman with careful scrutiny, extending his senses to perceive her true nature. What he discovered caused his eyes to widen marginally. Her heart contained a unique energy signature, neither purely light nor darkness, but something that echoed aspects of chakra despite clearly not originating from his world. You're a replica, he observed. An artificial being created from memories and heart fragments. But there's something else. He approached carefully, raising his hand toward her but not quite touching. Your constructio involved principles similar to chakra molding, the balancing of physical and spiritual energies to create something new. Xian nodded slowly, seeming to understand despite never having heard such terms before. Vexen, the scientist who created me, used data from Sora combined with memories to form my identity. But I was always unstable, always incomplete. Yet you stand before us now, seemingly whole. Yen Sid noted with scholarly interest. Curious indeed. Riku approached cautiously, still processing Xian's unexpected return. The last time we saw you was when you rejoined with Sora. Why? Oh, you sacrificed yourself so he could wake up. I remember that, Xian confirmed, emotion briefly clouding her features. It should have been final. But when she gestured toward Naruto, emerged into this time, something changed. I felt a pull, like parts of me that were scattered suddenly had a reference point to gather around. This description immediately caught Naruto's attention. A reference point, he repeated thoughtfully. Like scattered chakra responding to its original source. Is that what happened? Kairi asked, looking between them. But how would Xian's existence connect to your chakra? She was created long after your time. Naruto's expression grew distant as he considered possibilities. During the war, massive amounts of energy were released, both heart energy and chakra. Intermingling as reality itself fractured. That energy didn't simply vanish, it dispersed across the sundered worlds, manifesting in different forms over millennia. You believe some of the Qi energy was utilized in Xian's creation, however inadvertently. Yen Sid proposed. It would explain the resonance I sense, Naruto confirmed. Her fundamental structure contains patterns reminiscent Qi of specific chakra formulations, particularly those associated with shadow clones and memory transference. Xian absorbed this information with remarkable composure given its implications for her very existence. So I'm connected to the ancient world, to whatever came before the reality we know. In a manner of speaking, Naruto affirmed gently. Though that connection was likely accidental on your creator's part, they utilized energy without understanding its true origins. This revelation created a momentary lull in the conversation, everyone processing its implications while Xian Herschel F seemed to be reconciling this new understanding with her existing sense of identity. Aqua finally broke the silence, returning to practical concerns. If our enemies are establishing these anchor points across worlds, we need to respond quickly. Master Yen Sid, can the tower's defenses be reinforced against further attempts? I shall implement additional protections, the sorcerer confirmed. But our primary concern must be identifying and neutralizing these anchors before they can be fully activated. We'll need to split up, Riku suggested. Cover more worlds simultaneously. Dangerous but necessary, Naruto agreed. Though I recommend caution in how we distribute our forces. These enemies clearly planned for my awakening and may have similar contingencies for each of you. As they began formulating strategy, Naruto noticed Xian continuing to study him with quiet intensity. Her existence represented an unexpected variable, one potentially valuable given her unique connection to both his ancient power and this modern era. You should come with me, he decided, addressing her directly. Your nature might provide insights into how these energy systems are being merged. Ion looked surprised by the offer but nodded her acceptance. I want to understand why I've returned and how it connects to everything that's happening. With that settled, the group divided responsibilities. Aqua and Riku would investigate reports of similar attacks at Disney Castle and the Land of Departure, while Kairi would remain with Yen Sid to help strengthen the tower's defenses. Naruto and Xian would return to Radiant Garden to follow up on the data theft and examine Xian's unique energy signature more thoroughly. As preparations concluded, Naruto found a moment alone with Kairi before departure. I meant what I said earlier, he told her quietly. Your ability to enhance light magic against these chakra-infused enemies is crucial. The tower needs that protection more than Radiant Garden needs another combatant. Kairi seemed disappointed but nodded her understanding. Just be careful, and watch out for Xian. She's been through a lot, even if she doesn't remember all of it. I will, Naruto promised. Her situation resonates with me more than you might realize. I too know what it means to have your existence defined by energies you didn't choose to contain. Amon earned a thoughtful look from Kairi, but before she could respond, Xian approached, ready for departure. Naruto extended his hand to the replica, summoning the special kunai with his other. This will feel strange, he warned, repeating his earlier caution to Kairi. Focus on your breathing and don't let go. As golden light surrounded them, initiating the Flying Thunder God technique, Naruto cast one last glance toward Kairi. Something about the Princess of Heart continued to trigger recognition beyond what their brief acquaintance should allow, a resonance similar to what he sensed in Xian but more subtle. More fundamental. The mystery would have to wait, however, as reality compressed around them, carrying them back to Radiant Garden and whatever revelations awaited there. Ansem's laboratory hummed with activity as scientists analyzed the security breach. Naruto observed from a distance as Leon coordinated with a blonde man, Sid, he'd been introduced as, to assess what specific data had been compromised. Nearby, Xian sat quietly while another researcher, a young woman named Ienzo, conducted non-invasive scans of her unique energy signature. Fascinating, Ienzo commented, reviewing results on a nearby monitor. Her composition shows patterns of never encountered before, neither purely data nor heart energy, but something that seems to bridge conceptual frameworks. Chakra interfaces, Naruto supplied, approaching to examine the readings himself. Or rather, principles analogous to chakra molding techniques, adapted to this world's parameters. Ienzo glanced at him with scholarly interest. You understand these patterns. Some, Naruto acknowledged. They resemble techniques my world developed for creating semi-autonomous energy constructs, shadow clones with memory transfer capabilities. Xian listened to this assessment of her very nature with remarkable equanimity. So I'm like a shadow clone that developed independence. Not exactly, Naruto clarified gently. You're your own being with a unique heart. But your fundamental structure incorporates principles similar to those techniques, which explains why my awakening might have provided a reference point for your reconstitution. Before they could explore this further, Leon approached with a grim expression. We've completed our analysis of the stolen data. It's worse than we thought. How so? Naruto prompted. They didn't just take information about world boundaries, Leon explained. They accessed specific research about Kingdom Hearts itself, theoretical models about its relationship to individual world hearts. This revelation sent a chill through Naruto. That knowledge was supposed to be lost with the Sundering. Apparently not entirely, Leon replied. Ansem's predecessor collected legends and theoretical frameworks from across worlds, piecing together fragments of ancient knowledge without fully understanding its significance. Academic curiosity without practical safeguards. Naruto murmured, a familiar pattern he'd witnessed repeatedly across centuries. Knowledge preserved without the wisdom to contain it. Xian, following the conversation closely, asked the question others hesitated to voice. What could they do with that information combined with these anchor points you mentioned? Naruto's expression darkened as he considered possibilities. Best case, create stable pathways between worlds without respecting established boundaries, disrupting the world order but not destroying it entirely. And worst case, Leon pressed, initiate a chain reaction that forces world hearts to realign with their original configuration, Naruto replied grimly. Essentially compelling reunification without the necessary adjustments for compatibility. The resulting energy discharge could rival the Keyblade War itself. This assessment silenced the room momentarily, the magnitude of the threat sinking in. Even the scientists paused their work, exchanging concerned glances. Is there a way to prevent this? Ienzo finally asked, returning to practical concerns. Yes, Naruto confirmed, his mind already formulating strategies based on ancient knowledge. But it requires understanding exactly which anchor points they've established and the specific resonance patterns they're exploiting. We've received reports of unusual energy signatures from several worlds. Leon informed them, consulting a data pad. Twilight Town, Destiny Islands, Halloween Town, Disney Castle, and now here at the tower. There's also unusual activity detected near the Keyblade graveyard. The last location drew Naruto's particular attention. The graveyard would be a logical focal point. It marks the epicenter of the original Sundering, where the Keyblade shattered and Kingdom Hearts was wounded. Quote, so what's our next move? Leon asked pragmatically. Naruto considered the question carefully, weighing strategic options against the limited information available. We need to understand how these anchor points are connected, the specific resonance patterns being exploited. For that, we need someone who can perceive those connections directly. His gaze shifted to Xian, whose unique nature might provide exactly the perspective they needed. Your existence bridges multiple conceptual frameworks, replica science, heart energy, and now apparently chakra principles. That unique perspective might allow you to perceive connections others can't. Me, Xian looked surprised, but I don't know anything about chakra or these anchor points. Not consciously, Naruto agreed. But your very nature is attuned to the resonance patterns we're seeking to understand. With proper guidance, you might perceive what remains invisible to others. How would that work? She asked cautiously. A modified version of the mind's eye technique, Naruto explained. I can guide your consciousness to perceive beyond physical limitations, using my understanding of chakra pathways combined with your natural resonance with these energies. Xian considered this proposal with admirable thoughtfulness, weighing her desire to understand her own existence against the unknown risks of such an experimental procedure. Will it help stop whatever they're planning? She finally asked. Potentially, Naruto confirmed. At minimum, it should provide insights into how his anchor points are being established and connected. Then I'll do it, Xian decided, her resolve evident despite any lingering uncertainty. Leon nodded his approval. We'll provide whatever support you need. Ienzo can monitor energy patterns during the procedure. I'll need a quiet space, Naruto requested. Somewhere minimally affected by technological fields or magical residue. The gardens, Ienzo suggested. The outer meditation spaces were designed to be energetically neutral for sensitive experiments. With arrangements made, the group relocated to a secluded garden within the castle grounds. The space featured a simple stone platform surrounded by flowing water, design elements Naruto recognized as intentionally crafted to facilitate energy flow while minimizing external interference. As Ienzo set up monitoring equipment at a respectful distance, Naruto guided Zien to sit across from him on the platform. Their positions mirrored traditional meditation postures from H's world, cross-legged with hands resting on knees, spines straight but not rigid. Close your eyes, Naruto instructed gently. Focus on your breathing first, deep and regular. Allow your awareness to expand beyond physical sensation. Zien complied, her expression relaxing as she followed his guidance. Naruto observed her carefully, noting how naturally she settled into the meditative state, and her hint that her fundamental nature incorporated principles from his world. I'm going to establish a chakra connection between us, he explained, his voice taking on a rhythmic quality that naturally induced deeper trance states. You'll feel a warmth at the center of your being, spreading outward. Don't resist it, allow it to merge with your own energy. With practiced precision, Naruto-chan led a thin stream of his chakra across the space between them. Unlike offensive techniques designed to disrupt an opponent's energy, this application resembled healing arts, supportive rather than invasive, enhancing rather than controlling. Zien gasped softly as the connection established, her eyes remaining closed but her expression reflecting wonder rather than discomfort. I can feel you, she whispered. Like an echo inside my own thoughts. That's normal, Naruto assured her. Now expand your awareness outward, beyond this garden, beyond the castle. Feel for patterns similar to the connection between us, resonance points where different energy types interface and amplify each other. For several minutes, they sat in silence as Zien's consciousness expanded under Naruto's guidance. The ancient master maintained the delicate chakra connection while simultaneously extending his own senses, creating a feedback loop that enhanced both their perceptions. I see threads, Zien eventually murmured, her voice distant as if speaking from another place entirely. Golden lines connecting points of light, pulsing in patterns. Follow one of those threads, Naruto directed. Trace it to its anchor point and observe the specific resonance pattern. Zien's breathing deepened as her consciousness traveled along these invisible connections. The tower. It glows with symbols I don't recognize. Ancient writing that shifts between languages. The sigils activated during the attack, Naruto confirmed. What connects to the tower? Where do the threads lead? Many directions, Zien described. But the strongest goes to a barren place. Countless keys embedded in dry earth. A crossroads where something momentous happened. The Keyblade graveyard, Naruto identified immediately. The war's epicenter. What else connects there? Everything, Zien whispered, awe and concern mingling in her voice. All threads eventually connect there, like a web with the graveyard at its center. But the pattern isn't complete yet. Gaps remain, waiting to be filled. How many anchor points are active? Naruto pressed, sensing they approached crucial information. 5 fully activated, Zien responded after a pause. 3 more partially established. They form a geometric pattern, an 8-pointed star with the graveyard at its center. This confirmation ignited with what Naruto had feared, a deliberate recreation of ancient symbolic patterns used during the original sundering, but inverted to reverse the process. The resonance frequencies, he continued. Can you describe how they interact? Do they harmonize or conflict? Both, Zien replied, her brow furrowing in concentration. They create constructive interference at specific points, destructive at others. The pattern seems designed to amplify certain connections while neutralizing resistance. As she spoke, Naruto noticed subtle changes in her energy signature, her unique composition responding to the extended perception. Adapting and evolving in real time. The chakra principles embedded in her structure were becoming more defined, more integrated with her core identity. There's something else, she added suddenly. Tension entering her voice. A presence moving between anchor points. Neither light nor darkness but something older. It feels familiar somehow. This description immediately heightened Naruto's attention. Can you see this presence more clearly? Identify its nature. Xian's face contorted slightly, struggling to perceive details beyond her current capabilities. It's like looking at a reflection of a reflection. I sense tremendous power but contained, controlled. And purpose. Absolute conviction driving every action. Does it notice your observation? Naruto asked cautiously, ready to sever the connection if necessary to protect her. I don't think. Xian began, only to gasp suddenly, her body stiffening. It sees me. It's looking back. Naruto immediately moved to break the connection, but before he could, Xian's eyes snapped open, revealing not her normal blue irises but concentric ripple patterns glowing with unnatural light. The Rinnegan. Impossible, Naruto whispered, recognizing the legendary dojutsu that shouldn't exist in this time or world. Xian spoke, but the voice emerging wasn't entirely her own, layered with another presence, ancient and powerful. The vessel recognizes its purpose. The circle nears completion. The worlds will be one again, as they were always meant to be. With a swift motion, Naruto pressed his palm against Xian's forehead, channeling precise chakra to disrupt the external influence. Release. The young woman gasped as the connection severed, the Rinnegan pattern fading from her eyes as she slumped forward. Naruto caught her before she could fall, lowering her gently to the platform as Ienzo rushed forward with monitoring equipment. What happened? The scientist demanded, checking Xian's vital signs. Something intercepted our connection, Naruto explained grimly, his mind racing through implications. A consciousness powerful enough to project through the resonance pathways themselves. Is she all right? Leon asked, joining them with evident concern. Physically, yes, Naruto confirmed, maintaining a supportive hand on Xian's shoulder as she regained full awareness. The influence was temporary, a projection rather than possession. Xian blinked rapidly as her vision cleared, looking around in confusion before focusing on Naruto. What was that? Those eyes. The Rinnegan, Naruto explained, his expression grave. A legendary dojutsu from my world, the most powerful visual prowess known to shinobi. It shouldn't exist here, in this time. But it does, Xian stated rather than asked, raising a hand to her temples as if the memory of bearing those eyes lingered physically. And whoever has it, they're coordinating everything. Moving between the anchor points. Strengthening connections, preparing for something they call completion. Naruto helped her to her feet as they moved away from the meditation platform. Despite the interrupted procedure, they'd gained critical information, confirmation of the enemy's approach and a clearer understanding of the anchor point network being established. 8 points forming a star pattern, Naruto summarized for Leon and Ienzo. 5 fully activated, 3 partially established. The Keyblade graveyard serves as the central hub, with all connections eventually routing through it. A ritual configuration, Leon observed, similar to what Xehanort attempted with the 13 darknesses and 7 lights. But inverting the original sundering pattern, Naruto added, where the war caused fragmentation. This arrangement seeks controlled reunification. Can it be stopped? Ienzo asked the critical question. Yes, Naruto confirmed, but not by directly attacking the anchor points. That would risk catastrophic energy discharge. We need to disrupt the resonance patterns connecting them, essentially detuning the frequencies they're attempting to harmonize. How do we do that? Leon pressed. Naruto considered the question carefully before answering. We need to identify the 3 incomplete anchor points and prevent their activation. Simultaneously, we must introduce counter-reso Nance at the Keyblade graveyard, essentially creating a dampening field around the central hub. That sounds like we're dividing our forces again, Leon noted with concern. Necessarily so, Naruto acknowledged, but with better understanding of what we're facing. As they discussed strategic options, Xian remained unusually quiet, her expression suggesting internal processing of the experience she'd just undergone. When she finally spoke, her question surprised everyone. The presence controlling this, it's connected to you somehow, isn't it? She asked Naruto directly. I felt a resonance between you when it looked through me. Like distant branches of the same tree. The observation was uncomfortably perceptive, touching on possibilities Naruto had begun to consider but hadn't yet voiced. It's possible, He admitted carefully. If someone from my era also survived the sundering, they might possess both the knowledge and motivation to attempt this. But who would that be? Ienzo wondered. And why wait until now? After all this time? Because they needed me, Naruto replied, the realization crystallizing as he spoke. My awakening wasn't accidental, it was engineered precisely to enable this process. Whatever force preserved me through the centuries did so with this specific moment in mind. This revelation hung heavily in the air, interrupted when Leon's communication device activated. Riku's voice emerged, tense and urgent. Leon, is Naruto there? We've got a situation at Disney Castle. Another hooded figure appeared, established some kind of energy pattern, and mentioned something about the sixth anchor being secured. We're all here, Leon confirmed. Naruto and Xian discovered information about these anchor points. They're creating a network centered on the Keyblade graveyard. That matches what we witnessed, Riku replied. The figure specifically said their work at Disney Castle would strengthen the connection to the crossroads. They're moving faster than we anticipated. Naruto took the communicator from Leon. Riku, was the figure wearing a black coat with red cloud patterns? Yes, exactly that, Riku confirmed. They also demons. Traded abilities none of us recognized, controlling gravity, repelling attacks without visible means, manipulating attractive and repulsive forces. The Six Paths technique, Naruto identified immediately, further confirming his growing suspicion. Abilities granted by the Rinnegan. Tell Aqua to avoid direct confrontation if this figure reappears. These techniques can counter most conventional combat approaches. Understood, Riku acknowledged. What's our next move? Naruto exchanged glances with Xian, whose unique perspective had proven invaluable despite the risks. We need to secure the remaining incomplete anchor points before they can be activated. Based on the pattern Xian perceived, we can predict likely targets. Which worlds? Leon asked. Places with strong connections to the original world order. Naruto explained. Locations where the boundaries between realms were always thinnest. Based on the geometric pattern, the land of departure would be one likely target. That's where Aqua was headed next. Riku confirmed over the communication link. The second would be Destiny Islands, Naruto continued, as a nexus point naturally connecting to multiple worlds. And the third, he paused, considering the logical completion of the pattern based on ancient knowledge of world resonance points. The realm of darkness itself, specifically, the dark margin where boundaries between realms naturally thin. This assessment drew concerned looks from everyone present. The realm of darkness represented a particularly dangerous location, especially if the enemy had already established a presence there. I'll go to Destiny Islands, Riku volunteered immediately. It's my home world. I know it better than anyone. I should accompany you, Naruto countered. If they already begun establishing the anchor point, you'll need someone familiar with the sealing techniques required to disrupt it. What about the realm of darkness? Leon asked the question everyone was considering. Who goes there? A moment of heavy silence followed, broken when Xian spoke with unexpected resolve. I will, with Aqua guarding the land of departure and you two at Destiny Islands. Someone needs to address the dark margin. That's too dangerous, Naruto objected immediately. Especially given what just happened during our connection. If the enemy can influence you through resonance pathways. That's exactly why it should be me, Xian interrupted with surprising firmness. I've already experienced their influence and survived it. More importantly, the connection works. Both ways. I gained insights into their methods that might prove crucial. She has a point, Ienzo noted cautiously. And her unique nature might provide some protection against the realm's corrupting influence. Naruto studied Xian carefully, recognizing the determination in her expression, a resolve reminiscent of comrades he'd known centuries ago. Despite his concerns, he respected her agency, and the valid strategic points she raised. Not alone, he finally decided. You'll need someone with experience navigating the realm of darkness. Aqua has the most experience there, Riku pointed out through the communicator. But she's needed at the land of departure. What about Mickey? Leon suggested. He's traveled the dark realm extensively. Contact him, Naruto agreed. If he can accompany Xian to the dark margin, they stand a better chance of disrupting any anchor point establishment without being overwhelmed. With assignments determined, they moved to coordinate final details. While Leon arranged communication protocols with Riku and reached out to King Mickey, Naruto took a moment to speak privately with Xian. "Are you certain about this?" he asked, genuine concern evident beneath his tactical focus. "The realm of darkness is treacherous even for experienced Keyblade wielders." "I'm sure," Xian confirmed, her resolve unwavering. "Whatever connection exists between my nature and your chakra, it's part of this larger pattern. I need to understand it, not just for the current crisis but for my own identity." Naruto nodded, recognizing the deeper motivation behind her decision. "Your existence transcends conventional boundaries, replica science, hard energy, and now apparently chakra principles. That unique perspective may indeed prove crucial." "Like you said," Xian replied with a small smile, "I bridge conceptual frameworks. Maybe that's exactly what's needed when dealing with forces trying to merge worlds." Her insight demonstrated wisdom beyond her apparent years, reminding Naruto that appearances could be deceiving, something he understood better than most, having maintained the same youthful appearance for centuries while his mind and soul aged. "Take this," he said, removing a special kunai from his pouch and offering it to her. "It contains my Flying Thunder God marker. If you find yourself in true danger, channel energy into it. It will create a beacon I can follow, regardless of dimensional barriers." Xian accepted the kunai reverently, understanding the significance of such a gift. "Thank you. I'll use it only if absolutely necessary." With preparations complete, the group reconvened to finalize their coordinated response. Reports from across worlds confirmed the pattern Xian had perceived, a systematic establishment of anchor points forming a specific geometric configuration centered on the Keyblade graveyard. "Once we've secured or disrupted the incomplete anchor points," Naruto explained to everyone, "we'll need to address the central hub at the graveyard itself. That will be the most dangerous phase, as whoever controls this process will undoubtedly concentrate their forces there." "One step at a time," Leon advised pragmatically. "Secure the remaining anchor points first, then reassess based on what we learn." With agreements reached and assignments clear, the group prepared for departure. As Naruto made final preparations to accompany Riku to Destiny Islands, he found himself reflecting on how quickly events had accelerated since his awakening mere days ago. The worlds faced a threat unlike any since the original sundering, not chaotic destruction but calculated reorganization, potentially equally catastrophic in its consequences. Yet amid this crisis, he'd found unexpected allies whose courage and determination reminded him of what he'd once fought to protect. Perhaps the greatest irony was that his very presence, intended by their enemy as a catalyst for world merger, might instead provide the knowledge needed to prevent it. Whatever force had preserved him through centuries had inadvertently ensured that the wisdom of the past would stand against its misuse in the present. That thought providing grim determination, Naruto joined Riku at the designated departure point, ready to face whatever awaited at Destiny Islands, and whatever revelations might emerge about the identity of those who sought to rewrite the very foundations of reality itself. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Echoes Through Time. The space between worlds shimmered with ethereal light as Naruto and Riku traversed the dimensional pathways. Unlike Naruto's Flying Thunder God technique, they traveled via Riku's corridor, a unique passage neither fully light nor darkness but something between, reflecting the young master's balanced nature. Naruto studied this method with scholarly interest, noting how it differed from both his own approach and the ancient pathways he'd known before the sundering. "Your technique," Naruto observed as they moved through the iridescent tunnel, "it carries aspects of both realms while belonging to neither." Remarkable control. Riku maintained his focus on maintaining their path but acknowledged the observation with a slight nod. "It took years to develop. After walking both paths, light and darkness, I found the balance between served me better than either extreme." Wisdom often overlooked by Keyblade wielders, Naruto commented. "In my time, most chose absolute alignment with either light or darkness. Few recognized the strength in harmonizing both." The tunnel began to brighten as they approached their destination. Destiny Islands, a nexus point where dimensional boundaries naturally thinned, making it both strategically valuable and dangerously vulnerable to tampering. "You mentioned you've been to Destiny Islands before." Riku asked as the exit portal began to form. When it didn't exist as a separate world, Naruto clarified. Before the Sundering, it was a sacred archipelago, a place where hearts naturally converged from across the United Realm. Many significant paths began or ended there. That explains a few things, Riku mused as they emerged onto the familiar shore. Destiny Islands greeted them with its eternal summer atmosphere, gentle waves lapping against pristine beaches, palm trees swaying in the salt-tinged breeze, the SM. All Play Island rising from turquoise waters. Yet Naruto immediately sensed the dissonance beneath this peaceful facade, subtle disturbances in the world's natural energy flow, ripples in patterns that should have remained stable. Someone's already begun the process, he stated grimly, scanning their surroundings with senses that perceived beyond physical reality. Dimensional pressure points are being systematically stressed. Riku summoned his Keyblade, Braveheart, its distinctive design reflecting his journey from darkness to balanced mastery. Where do we start looking? Naruto closed his eyes briefly, extending his awareness beyond conventional limitations. The center of the disturbance is the secret place. The cave beneath the tree roots. The door, Riku realized immediately. It's always been a weak point between realms. They moved with purpose across the beach, both masters instinctively scanning for threats as they approached the waterfall and hidden cave entrance. Naruto noted with approval how Riku maintained constant situational awareness without obvious effort, a sign of hard-earned experience despite his relative youth. You've faced significant trials for someone so young, Naruto observed as they ducked into the cave entrance. Your heart carries the resilience of someone who's confronted their own darkness and emerged stronger. Riku's expression revealed momentary surprise at the accurate assessment before returning to focused vigilance. Darkness was my greatest weakness until I learned to make it a strength. Sounds like you understand that journey. All too well, Naruto acknowledged, memories of his own struggles with the Nine Tails chakra surfacing briefly. The power we fear most often becomes our greatest ally once properly understood. The cave's interior remained as it had for generations, walls covered with childish drawings accumulated over years, the mysterious wooden door standing sentinel at the far end. Yet to Naruto's enhanced perception, everything had changed. The space hummed with foreign energy, dimensional pressures building around the door like water against a straining dam. They've already initiated the resonance sequence, he observed. Approaching the door cautiously, whoever did this understood precisely what they were targeting. Riku joined him, studying the seemingly unchanged wooden surface. I don't see anything different. Not visible to conventional sight, Naruto explained, raising his hand toward the door without quite touching it. But the energetic architecture has been fundamentally altered. This door always connected to other realms, but now it's being systematically synchronized with specific frequencies, particularly those matching the Keyblade graveyard's resonance pattern. Can you disrupt it? Riku asked pragmatically. Yes, but, Naruto began, then froze as his enhanced senses detected a new disturbance. Not from the door itself, but from the cave entrance behind them. We're not alone. Both masters turned simultaneously, Keyblades materializing in flashes of light as a figure appeared at the cave entrance. Unlike the hooded figures they'd encountered previously, this one made no attempt to conceal their identity. She stood with quiet dignity, a woman of extraordinary beauty whose appearance belied her true age. Long indigo hair cascaded down her back, aiming a face that combined delicate features with unmistakable strength. Her attire suggested both function and elegance, a lavender and white battle kimono modified for mobility, with armored segments, protecting vital areas while allowing fluid movement. Most striking were her eyes, pearlescent white with the faintest lavender tint, pupilless yet seeing everything. The legendary Byakugan, though currently inactive, Naruto's Keyblade slipped from suddenly numb fingers, disappearing before it hit the ground. A name escaped his lips, barely audible even in the cave's close confines. Hinata. The woman's expression shifted from wary assessment to stunned recognition. Her hand rose to cover her mouth as she took a hesitant step forward. Naruto-kun, is it really you this time? Riku maintained his defensive stance, glancing between them with understandable confusion. You know her. I did, Naruto answered, his voice uncharacteristically unsteady. A lifetime ago. Many lifetimes ago. Hinata approached slowly, as if fearing he might disappear. Her eyes, Those extraordinary eyes that had always seen through him to truths he himself couldn't perceive, studied him with desperate intensity. "I've found you so many times," she whispered, only to discover I was chasing echoes or reflections. "Fragments of you scattered across worlds and timelines." She stopped an arm's length away, close enough that Naruto could see the faint lines around her eyes, the only visible sign of age on her otherwise youthful features. Without conscious thought, his hand rose toward her face, hesitating just short of contact. "How is this possible?" he asked, voice barely controlled. "You should have died centuries ago." "Everyone did. I made a promise," she answered simply, as if that explained everything. In many ways, it did. Riku finally lowered his Keyblade, recognizing the emotional gravity of the moment despite not understanding its context. "I'll check the perimeter," he offered tactfully, moving toward the cave entrance to give them privacy. Once alone, Naruto finally allowed his fingers to brush against Hinata's cheek, a touch so gentle it might have been imagined, yet it sent visible tremors through both of them. "You're real," he breathed, wonder and disbelief mingling in his voice. "Not always," Hinata replied cryptically, leaning ever so slightly into his touch. "Sometimes I'm memory, sometimes reflection. But here, now, yes, I'm real." Questions crowded Naruto's mind, decades of shinobi paranoia urging caution even as his heart recognized truths beyond logical explanation. "The last time I saw you, was in Konoha," she finished. "You were leaving to confront Kagaya's descendant. You promised to return by sunrise." "I tried," Naruto whispered, ancient guilt surfacing. "The technique I used to seal him away, it caught me too. I thought I was sacrificing myself to save everyone." "I know," Hinata assured him. "I saw the dimensional tear close with you inside it. I saw what you did." Something in her phrasing caught Naruto's attention. "You saw? How could you have witnessed that?" "The battle took place thousands of miles from the village." A sad smile crossed Hinata's features. "The Byakugan evolved beyond its original limitations after you disappeared. Grief and determination drove me to see further, deeper than any Hyuga before me." Her expression darkened slightly. "It wasn't enough to save our world, but it allowed me to follow you when the end came." "Follow me," Naruto repeated, confusion evident. "Hinata, what happened after I vanished? What happened to Konoha, to our children?" Pain flashed across her features, a grief so profound it transcended centuries. "We had decades together as a family before the catastrophe. Boruto became Hokage after Sarada. Himawari led the Hyuga clan. They lived full lives, Naruto. They never stopped looking for you, but they lived." Relief washed through him at this confirmation, though it answered only part of his question. "And the catastrophe? The seal you created didn't just contain your enemy, it created a temporal anomaly that gradually expanded. Decades after you disappeared, dimensional fractures began appearing throughout our world. Reality itself became unstable." Naruto closed his eyes briefly, understanding dawning with terrible clarity. The jutsu was never meant to last eternally. It was degrading all along. By the time we understood what was happening, it was too late to stop it, Hinata continued, her voice steady despite the heartbreaking content. "Orikima, Ru and Sasuke developed a technique they believed could stabilize the fractures, but it required someone with a specific chakra signature to execute." "Someone with my chakra," Naruto realized. "Boruto." Hinata nodded. "He volunteered immediately. The technique would use his life force as an anchor point, sacrificing one to save many." "But it didn't work," Naruto surmised from her expression. "It worked too well," Hinata corrected grimly. "The technique stabilized our reality by synchronizing it with the source of the disruption, you, trapped between dimensions. Our entire world began shifting through the dimensional barriers, seeking reunion with its missing piece." The implications staggered Naruto. The elemental nations became untethered from fixed reality. Yes. What remained? Our world began drifting through dimensions, appearing briefly in different realms before fading again. Most inhabitants experienced it as a gradual fading of reality, stars disappearing from the sky, colors bleeding from the landscape. Sounds becoming distant echoes. "How did you survive this?" Naruto asked, struggling to comprehend the scale of what she described. "I didn't, not entirely," Hinata admitted. "When Boruto performed the technique, I used a forbidden Hyuga art to link my consciousness to the process. My physical form dissipated, but my heart, bound to yours since childhood, followed the dimensional drift. Searching for you across realities. She raised her hand to mirror his, her fingers finally making contact with his face. The touch felt simultaneously real and ethereal. Warm skin that occasionally seemed to shimmer with translucency. I've existed in fragments for centuries, she explained. Sometimes materializing briefly when dimensional boundaries thinned, other times persisting only as consciousness without form. Always searching, always following the resonance between our hearts. Naruto struggled to process these revelations, the fate of his world, his family. And now the impossible presence of Hinata herself, preserved through dimensional anomalies and sheer determination. When I awakened in Twilight Town, he began, pieces connecting in his mind. The dimensional barriers were already weakening. That must have allowed you to manifest more completely. Yes, Hinata confirmed. I felt your return to fixed reality like a beacon across dimensions. But I wasn't the only one who noticed. Quote, this statement immediately refocused Naruto on their current crisis. The hooded figures, the ones establishing anchor points, they sensed my awakening too. They've been preparing for it, Hinata revealed, gathering knowledge about both world systems, experimenting with hybrid entities, establishing contingencies across realms. How do you know this? Naruto asked, tactical awareness reasserting itself alongside emotional turmoil. Because I've observed them during my dimensional drifting, she answered. When you exist partially outside conventional reality, you perceive patterns and connections invisible to others. I couldn't interact with what I saw, but I could witness their preparations. Do you know who they are? Naruto pressed, the strategist in him recognizing the potential value of such intelligence. Hinata's expression grew troubled, not with certainty. Their true forms remain concealed even to my eyes. But their chakra signatures contain elements that seem familiar, distorted and merged with darkness, but recognizable nonetheless. Before Naruto could pursue this further, Riku's voice called from outside. Something's happening at the door. Both shinobi turned immediately to see the wooden door beginning to emit a subtle glow around its edges, lines of golden light tracing patterns reminiscent of both Fuinjutsu formulas and Keyblade sigils. The resonance activation has begun, Naruto stated grimly, moving toward the door with renewed purpose. They're attempting to establish connection remotely. Hinata activated her Byakugan without hand signs, a testament to her mastery, the veins around her eyes bulging slightly as her vision expanded beyond normal limitations. The dimensional fabric is thinning. Energy patterns are converging from multiple sources, primarily from the location you call the Keyblade graveyard. Riku rejoined them, momentarily startled by Hinata's activated dojutsu but quickly refocusing on the immediate threat. How do we stop it? We need to disrupt the resonance pattern before it fully synchronizes, Naruto explained, summoning Maelstrom Heart once more. My Keyblade CAN interface with the dimensional frequencies, but I'll need to precisely counter the incoming patterns. I can see them, Hinata offered immediately. The Byakugan perceives the energy flows in real time. I can guide your adjustments. Naruto nodded, their years of partnership allowing immediate understanding without detailed explanation. Riku, we'll need you to defend us during the process. Once we begin disrupting the resonance, whoever initiated it will likely detect the interference and respond. The young master positioned himself at the cave entrance, Braveheart held ready. Just do what you need to. I'll handle whatever comes. With roles established, Naruto and Hinata approached the door together. He positioned his Keyblade before the wooden surface, not quite touching it, while Hinata stood beside him. Her Byakugan focused on the invisible energy patterns flowing around and through the door. The primary resonance frequency modulates in 7-point oscillations, she described. Her perception providing data no instruments could capture. Secondary harmonics establish at 3-point intervals, creating a nested pattern reminiscent of the 8 trigrams. Naruto adjusted his Keyblade's angle based on her guidance, channeling specific energy frequencies through the weapon. I need to introduce counter harmonics at precisely opposing phases to create destructive interference. Begin with the tertiary frequencies, Hinata instructed. They're the foundation supporting the larger pattern. Angle your Keyblade 15 degrees downward and channel wind-natured chakra through its core. The synchronicity of their cooperation felt simultaneously novel and deeply familiar, centuries apart, yet falling back into established patterns with the ease of longtime partners. Naruto followed her guidance with absolute trust, making minute adjustments to his energy output based on her real-time observations. Gradually, the golden light emanating from the door began to flicker and destabilize as their counter-resonance took effect. The complex patterns attempted to self-correct, shifting frequencies to maintain synchronization, but Hinata's Byakugan perceived each adjustment instantly, allowing Naruto to counter accordingly. "It's working," she confirmed after several minutes of intense concentration. "The connection is weakening. The primary anchor point at the graveyard is attempting to compensate by channeling additional energy, but the pattern can't stabilize against our interference." "Good," Naruto acknowledged, maintaining his focus. "Once we've fully disrupted the resonance, I can apply a sealing technique to prevent re-establishment." Outside the cave, sounds of conflict erupted, the distinctive clash of Keyblade against manifested darkness s. Augustin Riku had encountered the expected opposition. Despite the distraction, Naruto maintained his concentration on the delicate energy manipulation, trusting the young master to handle whatever threats approached. As their counter-resonance neared completion, something unexpected occurred. The door itself began to change, not opening conventionally but transforming, its wooden surface becoming translucent as images formed within its depths. Naruto and Hinata both recognized what they were seeing with shocked comprehension. Konoha, not as it had been in their time, but the ancient village from centuries ago. The Hokage monument showing only the first 4 faces, buildings from an era long past, streets bustling with shinobi wearing headbands and flak jackets distinctive to that period. "A temporal echo," Naruto whispered, momentarily distracted by the impossible vision. "The resonance is connecting across time as well as dimensions." "Not just any time," Hinata noted, her Byakugan perceiving deeper patterns. "This is Konoha during the 4th Great Ninja War, before the dimensional fracturing began. Before the first encounters with Kingdom Hearts energy." The significance of this specific temporal connection sent alarm through Naruto. They're not just trying to establish spatial anchor points, they're attempting to create temporal synchronization with a specific historical moment. The moment when chakra and heart energy first interacted, Hinata realized, her extraordinary perception connecting implications rapidly. When the barriers between systems were naturally thinnest. This revelation added new urgency to their task. Disrupting a simple spatial anchor point was one thing. Preventing temporal synchronization with a historically significant moment required far more precise intervention. "We need to adjust our approach," Naruto decided. "Rather than simply countering the resonance, we need to introduce a specific temporal offset, desynchronize the timestreams themselves." Before they could implement this modified strategy, a new disturbance manifested. The image of Konoha within the door rippled violently as a figure appeared, not physically present in the cave but visible through the dimensional window. Unlike the hooded entities they'd encountered previously, this one's features were partially visible despite shadows obscuring their identity. "The counter-resonance is detected," the figure announced, their voice distorted but understandable. "As anticipated, the 7th Hokage's interference was factored into our calculations." Naruto maintained his position, continuing the disruption process while addressing the manifestation. "Who are you? What do you hope to achieve by destabilizing the world order?" "Restoration, not destabilization," the figure replied. "The artificial separation of worlds was never meant to be permanent. We merely accelerate the inevitable reunification. Reunification without proper synchronization will destroy both systems." Naruto countered, recognizing dangerous echoes of arguments he'd heard before the First War. The original sundering occurred precisely because such merging proved catastrophic. Because it was uncontrolled, the figure dismissed, reactionary rather than purposeful. "We've spent centuries developing the precise methodologies required for harmonious reintegration." As they spoke, Naruto noted subtle changes in the resonance patterns, the opposition adjusting their approach in response to his interference. He modified his own techniques accordingly, guided by Hinata's continued observations. "Your efforts are admirable but ultimately futile," the figure continued. "The process has advanced beyond the point where individual anchor points remain critical. The network achieves self-stabilization once sufficient connections are established." This claim concerned Naruto, though he detected potential deception beneath the confidence. If that were true, you wouldn't be trying so hard to maintain this particular connection. A slight hesitation suggested his assessment had struck home. Some nodes are more significant than others. This location holds particular resonance with your personal timeline, a useful leverage point, nothing more. Hinata, who had remained silent during this exchange, suddenly straightened with heightened alertness. Naruto, she whispered urgently. I recognize aspects of that chakra signature. It contains elements similar to. Before she could complete her identification, the figure made a single hand sign that sent a pulse of energy through the dimensional window. The blast wasn't directed at Naruto but at Hinata, striking with precision before either could react. She gasped, staggering backward as the energy disrupted her Byakugan. Naruto immediately moved to support her, momentarily dividing his attention between the ongoing resonance disruption and his partner's condition. I'm all right, she assured him, though her deactivated eyes suggested otherwise. But my Byakugan has been temporarily neutralized. A specialized technique designed specifically to disrupt dojutsu. How would they know such a technique? Naruto wondered, the implication troubling. Only certain clans from their world had developed countermeasures specifically targeting eye-based abilities. Because they've studied you both extensively, the figure answered. Having overheard their exchange, your techniques, your relationships, your weaknesses, all catalogued across centuries of observation. The casual admission of such long-term surveillance sent chills through Naruto. Who are you? He demanded again, infusing the question with authority honed through decades as Hokage. For a moment, the shadows obscuring the figure's face seemed to thin, revealing a partial glimpse of features that struck Naruto with impossible familiarity, aspects reminiscent of people he'd known, yet wrongly combined, like a distorted reflection in troubled waters. Someone who understands the true meaning of eternity, came the enigmatic reply. We will meet properly at the crossroads, when the circle nears completion. With those words, the figure made another hand sign, causing the dimensional window to fluctuate violently. The image of Konoha distorted and fragmented as energy surged through the connection. They're overloading the resonance pattern, Hinata warned, even her temporarily disabled vision sensing the dangerous power spike, attempting to force synchronization through raw energy rather than precise harmonic alignment. Naruto immediately adjusted his counter techniques, channeling additional power through Maelstrom Heart to stabilize the fluctuations. This is desperation, not strategy. They're risking dimensional fracturing to maintain the connection. Quote, outside, the sounds of Riku's battle intensified, multiple opponents judging by the varying clash patterns. They were running out of time on multiple fronts. I need to seal this now. Before the overload reaches critical threshold, Naruto decided. Hinata, step back. Though clearly reluctant to withdraw support, she complied, moving several paces away. As Naruto raised Maelstrom Heart vertically before the door, golden light erupted from the Keyblade as he channeled both chakra and heart energy simultaneously, a dangerous combination he'd spent centuries perfecting. Sealing art. Dimensional boundary reinforcement. The technique manifested as concentric circles of glowing symbols, part Fuinjutsu formulas, part Keyblade sigils, that expanded out. Art from the Keyblade's tip to encompass the entire door. As the sealing pattern made contact with the wooden surface, the dimensional window shuddered violently, the figure within making one final attempt to maintain the connection. This changes nothing, they declared as their image began to fragment. The pattern is established. The resonance continues even without this specific anchor point. Then we'll disrupt every anchor point you've created, Naruto countered, maintaining the sealing process despite the resistance. Whatever you're planning, it ends before completion. The figure's distorted laughter echoed as their image dissolved completely. You cannot stop what has already begun. The worlds remember their original state. They yearn to return to wholeness. With a final surge of energy, the sealing technique completed, the door's surface returned to solid wood, the dimensional window collapsing as the connection severed. The golden patterns remained briefly visible on the wooden surface before sinking inward, becoming part of the door's very structure, a permanent reinforcement of the dimensional boundary. Naruto lowered his Keyblade, the exertion of such precise energy manipulation evident in his slightly labored breathing. Hinata immediately returned to his side, her hand resting supportively on his arm. It worked, she confirmed, her eyes gradually returning to normal as the disruption technique wore off. The resonance pattern is completely neutralized. This anchor point is secure. For now, Naruto qualified, understanding the temporary nature of Then his most powerful seals against determined opposition. We should check on Riku. They exited the cave to find the young master engaged with the last of several shinobi heartless, these more advanced than previous encounters. Utilizing elemental ninjutsu with concerning proficiency, Riku dispatched the final opponent with a combination of Keyblade strikes and dark fire techniques, demonstrating the balanced approach to combat Naruto had noted earlier. Took you long enough, Riku commented as they approached, though his tone held no real criticism. These weren't ordinary heartless. They used coordinated tactics and abilities of never seen before. Advanced hybrid forms, Naruto confirmed, surveying the aftermath with tactical assessment. They're evolving more rapidly with each encounter. We successfully disrupted the anchor point, Hinata informed Riku. The dimensional boundary has been reinforced against further tampering. Riku nodded acknowledgement before his gaze settled more fully on Hinata. Curiosity evident. I didn't get a proper introduction earlier. You're clearly someone important to Naruto. Hinata Hyuga. She introduced herself with a formal inclination of her head. Former heiress of the Hyuga clan, wife to the 7th Hokage, and apparently dimensional traveler. The casual mention of their relationship status sent an unexpected jolt through Naruto. The simple word, wife, encapsulating a lifetime of shared history rendered distant by centuries of separation. Hinata has provided critical intelligence about our opponents, he added, refocusing on practical matters. Her unique perceptual abilities allow her to see patterns invisible to conventional senses. Those eyes, Riku noted with scholarly interest. They're similar to yours when activated, but clearly function differently. The Byakugan, Hinata explained. My clan's dojutsu allows perception of chakra systems, visualization through solid objects, and nearly 360-degree vision. Over centuries of dimensional drifting, its capabilities have evolved beyond original parameters. Evolved how? Naruto asked, genuinely curious about changes to abilities he'd once known intimately. I can perceive heart connections now, she answered thoughtfully. Not just chakra networks but the fundamental bonds between hearts, much like how Keyblade wielders sense connections, but visualized differently. This development fascinated Naruto from both personal and tactical perspectives. The Byakugan adapting to perceive heart energy, that suggests fundamental compatibility between visual prowess and heart-seeing abilities. It makes sense, Riku observed. Both involve perceiving what exists beyond physical reality, the underlying connections and energies that conventional senses miss. Their theoretical discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from Naruto's device, Leon's voice emerging with concerning news. Naruto, Riku, we've detected similar resonance CE patterns activating at the land of departure. Aqua reports engagement with multiple hooded figures attempting to establish an anchor point near the castle's keyhole chamber. What about the realm of darkness? Naruto asked immediately. Any word from Xian and King Mickey? Limited communication, Leon replied grimly. Their last transmission confirmed arrival at the dark margin but reported unusual temporal fluctuations affecting the entire realm. We've lost contact since. This news heightened Naruto's concern. Temporal fluctuations in the realm of darkness suggested their opponents were accelerating their timeline. Possibly in response to the disruption at Destiny Islands. We should split up, he decided after brief consideration. Riku, you're needed at the land of departure. Why? Our balanced abilities will complement Aqua's against multiple opponents. What about you? Riku asked. Hinata and I will attempt to establish contact with Xian and Mickey in the realm of darkness, Naruto replied. Her evolved Byakugan might penetrate the communication disruption, allowing us to coordinate our countermeasures more effectively. Riku nodded agreement, recognizing the tactical soundness of this approach. What about this anchor point? Is it secure enough to leave undefended? The sealing technique I applied should hold indefinitely against conventional attempts to re-establish connection, Naruto assured him. If they attempt another forced synchronization through energy overload, the reinforcement will trigger automatic countermeasures. With their next moves determined, Riku opened a corridor to the land of departure while Naruto prepared for a more complex journey. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.